Welcome to Hispanic Lifestyles BizCon 2021. I'm Richard Sandoval, and BizCon 2021 is our vehicle that allows us to share inspiring stories and insights of entrepreneurs, business professionals, and community leaders with you. Surviving to Thrive has been our underlying theme since we reimagined this event back in 2014. Fast forward to 2021, and here we are again. Besides a group of exceptional speakers, later in our program we will recognize executives who have had a significant impact on the organizations they represent and the communities which they serve. Finally, we will end our program by recognizing business owners who are surviving to thrive. Before we get started, I really need to express our appreciation to the sponsors of BizCon 2021 for supporting Hispanic Lifestyle's effort to promote positive images of our community. Thank you, Wells Fargo Bank, California Energy Upgrade, Bank of America, Riverside County Economic Development Department, SoCal Gas Company, and San Bernardino County EDA. A couple of housekeeping items before we begin. The full program for BizCon 2021 is posted on our website, HispanicLifestyle.com, which also includes the bios and links to our speakers. Please share your comments and thoughts with us on your favorite social media platform using the hashtag HLBizCon2021. To get us started, we meet the new region president of Wells Fargo Bank, Natasha Mata. Natasha, I understand that you're our new representative. I'm probably going to get your title incorrect here, but you're going to be representing the inland region for Wells Fargo. So hello, welcome to the area, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Region Bank President for Wells Fargo and in the Inland Empire, and certainly very excited to be here. I am actually a resident of the Inland Empire. I actually live in Riverside with everyone who's part of the Inland Empire. I've actually been here now going on almost 4 years in July, and I'm a mother of 3, and I am very excited to be here with all of you.
Natasha, I know, like me, you are a native of California and spent some time outside the state, but I would really like you to talk about professionally your career, your community activity, some of the projects you've been involved with for Wells Fargo.
Okay. Great, I'd be happy to. I've been in banking for about 30 years, and I've spent a majority of my career here in California, and certainly a California native. I did have an opportunity to step outside of California and spent some time in New Mexico, and was able to get to know that community and just the amazing people that's out there. And certainly a couple of things that I've learned and that I've been, even more interested about is learning all the different places that that Wells Fargo has the opportunity to be a part of, and all the communities that we have the opportunity to serve. There are so many similarities in that. I'll say specifically, small business has been one of my passions, and certainly have had a lot of experience and involvement in the small business space, and certainly in one of my passions that I really want to make sure that I'm continuing to be involved and helping all of our community leaders be involved just as much as Wells Fargo continues to want to be involved, so we can help our small businesses thrive. And that's important to me. Additionally, there's a lot of other things that we've spent a lot of time in helping our homelessness population, and certainly helping a lot of organizations that have really put a lot of effort into identifying ways where we can help the homeless, the hunger issues that we continue to have in our country and certainly in our state. And in the areas that I've had the opportunity and the pleasure of being a part of, and certainly spent some time in identifying ways where we can help a lot of are entrepreneurs specifically. And so there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are so excited to put their name out there and to put their ideas out there. And so when I think about how that ties into small business and how when we help our entrepreneurs and really allowing them the opportunity and platform for them to be successful, that also helps our small business. And when I think about small business in general, it's really the engine of our economy. It's definitely something that I'm very passionate about. And I've spent a lot of time throughout my 25 years career with Wells Fargo in really involving myself in those projects and things that we can do to even better and serve our small business communities. So that's just a little bit about some of the things that I've been able to do so far. It sounds like it's a very small list, but I've spent a lot of experience and time in being able to identify ways where I can be more involved and to get more of our community leaders and partners involved as well.
But you are coming to the Inland Empire at a great time. I feel like that there is a new chapter. I know that some of our businesses have been suffering, and our theme of our conference is surviving to thrive. And we've been celebrating the success of business owners in this community, gosh, almost dating back to 1995. And so I'd like to give you an opportunity to share your thoughts and some comments with our audience today.
Well, thank you, Richard. I appreciate the opportunity, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to join you all here today as we celebrate the grit and resiliency of small businesses. My name is Natasha Mata, and I'm the Region Bank President for the Inland Empire region. And on behalf of Wells Fargo, I want to thank you all for joining us today as we honor the hard work and the dedication displayed by the small business community during these unprecedented times. Many of us know, but small businesses are truly the backbone of our communities and certainly important in our economy, and that they are the key to our local economies, especially here in Southern California. So as we learned anything in the past year, it's that we are all in this together. And by working together, we can achieve the true inclusive recovery that our small businesses need and deserve. Here at Wells Fargo, we're committed. We're committed to uplift and empower the small business community with the tools and the resources needed to thrive. And during this pandemic, which we know has been very tough for all of us, we've launched the Wells Fargo Open for Business Fund. It's a $420 million small business recovery effort to provide much needed capital, technical support, and long-term resiliency programs for small businesses across the nation. Today, we have administered $16 million so far in our funds across SoCal. So it's pretty exciting to actually have the ability to celebrate how much we've actually given out. Today, we will take time to hear the stories of small business owners that we've had to pivot and adapt, partner, and collaborate in order to weather this storm that we're in. Every day, I'm inspired by all the commitment and the entrepreneurs who show up for themselves and their employees and ultimately their communities that we're proud to join Hispanic lifestyle and honoring these businesses. So thank you again so much for being a part of this. Thank you for all that you do, and we hope that you enjoy the programming.
Here to provide his thoughts on the future of media is 22-time Emmy Award-winning journalist and entrepreneur, Carlos Amezcua. So glad you're going to join us today with our BizCon 2021. Like always, I'm a little informal with some of the people that I've known for quite a few years, especially somebody that's been on the cover of Hispanic Lifestyle.
I was so excited when I got that cover. I hate to interrupt you. This is a glorious entry that you just said. Thank you for the intro. But yeah, and I was so excited when I got that Hispanic Lifestyle cover. I mean, I think I got like 500 of those magazines.
I did, and thank you for distributing them too.
I was happy to do that. Inland Empire 7-Elevens.
Oh yeah, that's exactly it. But I remember the Porsche. I remember it was a great day. I remember the Porsche. I remember us going to the was it Candelas?
Candelas, yeah, the guitar maker, yeah.
I need to back up even further. You just mentioned 45 years. Seriously, 45 years. I know you've been asked this question before, but never by me. And that is, who inspired you to get into the career of journalism?
Well, I think the short version of that story is that my major at university was fine art. I'm an oil painter. That's been something that I've done my entire life, and I did it as a young person. I thought I would eventually have a career at the Walt Disney Company as a background painter, which is something I really wanted to do. Unfortunately, I was dating a young lady whose father was a dentist, and he said, maybe you ought to think about something other than an art career because you might starve. And I apologize for the sirens. It looks like somebody's being chased. I don't know if you can hear those or not. Anyway, he suggested that I do something other than art, and I started snooping around, and I got into advertising. And part of my advertising core studies was a class on journalism. And I took to it like crazy. It was like, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. And I happen to be a good writer. And because English is my second language, I studied English a lot. And I wanted to make sure I was proficient. And it really, really was a thing that catapulted me into broadcast journalism.
I've been profiling Latino business owners and professionals all around this theme of surviving to thrive. And so when I look at your career, you over 45 years, you're in an industry that continually evolves. So with that said, talk about the San Diego experience, being online. Off camera, we were talking about the fact that you were editing film. Now we're in digital. We're doing a lot of stuff in the cloud. Talk about that transition, how you had adjusted over the years.
Well, I mean, at the very beginning of my career in 1975, there weren't a lot of Latinos on TV. And a guy with the name of Carlos was not going to get on television readily. And things were beginning to change, and they wanted to have a little more ethnic reflection on the broadcast. But women weren't even that prominent in television back then. These were the early Walter Cronkite years, the very beginnings of women in the anchor chair and women reporters, and Latinos and African Americans were very rare to be seen in television newsrooms. So my challenge was to, first of all, distinguish myself as a professional and not think about my ethnicity so much, and to do the things that I needed to do to make sure I was always first in line, earliest guy at work, the last guy to leave the room, to do whatever I could do to get myself the spot that I wanted. So early in my career, I got an internship at a TV station, and it was an assistant to the assistant of the desk. They made me vacuum the newsroom and straighten up, rip all the wires, and just basically be a catch-all for everyone. I was there, go do whatever I had to do to be inside, but I was inside, and that was the trick. If I was inside, I would learn. I would then go out with reporters. I was only allowed to work for 4 hours, but after my 4 hours, I said, I'm going to go out and hang out with the reporters and learn what they do. And I did learn, and they were very generous with their time. And then as time wore on, I was able to get opportunities to do my own thing. And when I got that first job, it really changed the way I looked at it. I thought, well, this little formula of being the first guy at work and the last guy at work is starting to really pay off. And so it's hard work and determination and never taking no for an answer. I mean, I messed up big time. I mean, I made some horrible mistakes on TV and horrible mistakes as a journalist, but you learn. And by learning and doing, you grow and you become proficient at what you do. And pretty soon I found myself doing some really incredible things.
22 Emmys you have. I see one you have in the background there, right?
Right there.
I also want to talk a little bit about the industry itself. Specifically, you were in San Diego. You did a lot of time in Los Angeles, and then you moved on. If you would, our viewers, our audience, Hispanic lifestyle audience, is that I love to share insights. So what was your thinking at the time? Was it career? Was it family? Was it a combination of both? that made you want to make these changes?
Well, I think it was pretty tough. I come from a very traditional Mexican family. There's no question. My dad and mom were very traditional. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad worked as a musician and was very successful in his career, thank goodness. But he came across the border as a laborer, a day laborer, and during the bracero years in the late 40s and early 50s. And so a man who plays a violin should not be pulling lettuce out of the ground or doing any kind of labor like that. He laid railroad tracks in El Centro. I mean, this was a man who was extremely talented, and God blessed our family significantly. And my dad was able to rise to play in the San Diego Symphony, the LA Philharmonic, and eventually work with Nelson Riddle and Frank Sinatra in Las Vegas. So his ascension in life was really a blessing for our family and allowed me to go to university and to improve my life. So that immigration story is, I think, common among a lot of us who have have experienced that. I'm a first generation person to go to university in my family, and so those kinds of things in people's lives and in their heritage really makes you who you are. And so I learned to work hard early in life and to do the things that I set to do and to accomplish them. And then I'd say, "Mira, papá, lo que acabo de hacer," and he would, those little journeys those little goals that we accomplished and were big goals, eventually became bigger and bigger goals. And I think Latinos are hardworking people. I think we love to work, we love to explore, we love all the things that everyone else does. But for us, it's been tough. It's been tough in an environment where we haven't had a voice. We haven't had a chance to do the things that we wanted to do. And, I pushed through I tried to push through all the biases that were in the newsrooms and the horrible things that were said to me out in the street and some of the things that happened to me politically inside some newsrooms. You just kind of have to push through that and realize that quickly you realize that the money's not that great in TV until you get to the top. When you get to the top, the money's great. But then you can't get to the top because there's a ceiling there that says, you can't be a manager. You can't be the president of a network. I'm sorry, you're not in the club. So that's kind of the next level, the next step. And that's a whole different conversation, Richard.
Which I guess I want to put you a little bit on the spot in the sense that contract negotiations, you knew your wealth, you knew that what you put into the job, the professionalism, the ratings and all that, making those decisions to move from one station to another. And I don't know that we want to get into any of those details, but the negotiations, the decisions that you made to move on from a number one, as I'm trying to remember correctly, a number one rated morning show, then taking over for almost a number one, I think it was the number one 10 p.m. news slot, and then just walking. So what is that? Give us some insights because I own my own company and I'm negotiating with myself, and I could use some advice.
I hear you're tough. To negotiate with. No, I think what's interesting about the whole KTLA experience, and by the way, this is the 30th, we're celebrating our 30th anniversary of starting that. We started July 8th, 1991. And that to me was the seminal moment in my career when I said yes to that job opportunity. And young journalists start off and we move from market to market, hoping to make a little more money, hoping to make our way and get to the point where you're recognized enough that you get that plum job. Well, unbeknownst to me, that plum job is in LA at a station that didn't have a morning newscast. The market didn't have a morning newscast. And fortunately, somebody saw something in me and they picked me, and I said yes. And I negotiated what I thought I needed to live in Los Angeles, which was not nearly enough. But again, the only way that was going to improve was that we had to work really hard to make sure that the audience liked what we were doing. And so the entire group risked everything to be on TV in LA, take a chance. And of course, that became a 20-year stint at KTLA that's really a remarkable rise in a TV station's fortunes, as well as the talent who occupied those seats. I had the good fortune of working with some of the best people in the world. I mean, Barbara Beck and Eric Spellman and Mark Kriske and Sam Rubin and Gail Anderson and Michelle Ruiz, Cher Calvin. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And yes, you asked what happened. Well, after being there for a certain amount of time, things changed. It was time to move up. Hal Fishman had passed away, and some things were said and promises made that weren't fulfilled. And so that was a really difficult thing for me, because for all intents and purposes, look, I will tell you that I am more identified with KTLA than anything else I've ever done. I can go work at KTTV, I could go work at KHJ, I could go work at KNBC. Oh man, I dated myself with KHJ. Anyway, I could, even at Beyond TV, when people see me, they go, KTLA, the KTLA Morning News. That's my face. That's my family. And those people still are very close to me. And we're all that way. I just had a wonderful lunch with Barbara Beck the other day. And I'm telling you that time stands still. We are friends as we were friends when we worked together, as we are today. And it was the most difficult choice that I made to leave. But in order to rise to the rank of evening news, and the evening news, I guess, brass ring, if you want to call it that, to sit next to Christine Devine, who had a fantastic run with John Beard at Fox 11, and to fill John Beard's shoes were huge shoes to fill, and we knocked it out of the park. Christine and I were number one, and we were, we owned the marketplace, and it was terrific. And after a while, I realized that because I'm an entrepreneur, I decided that maybe there were some other things I could do, and I was tinkering with video streaming with some friends, and we had made some money selling a streaming company, and we had done some things on the side that were really, really exciting, that it was time for me to become my own person and try to push the envelope. And, one of my heroes in broadcasting is Byron Allen, who has made a tremendous career out of what he invented in his head was the path to greatness and the path to wealth. And so, Byron, I'm right there with you, trying to become the media mogul that he's become.
Yeah. I chop and edit, but I'm sure you just read about that article that
yeah,
he's looking for a few hamburgers from McDonald's.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he's trying to make a point that, the media tends to stick to what it knows. And unless you ruffle their feathers or make waves, as Byron has, people don't pay attention, and they don't want to pay attention. Latinos make up a huge marketplace, and we are massive buyers of products in America. And so I think with good reason, he's making waves, saying, "Hey, listen to those of us who were underserved." And you claim to have diversity in your workforce, you claim to have diversity in your mantra as a corporation. Well, show us the beef. We'd like a piece of that pie. And I think that's what's going on. And we're trying to kind of reach a balance where things actually work for everyone.
Talk about new ideas. Talk about new ways of communicating with an audience. Again, I don't believe you have to be the biggest as far as equipment, as far as infrastructure goes. I mean, it's a camera and a computer, and you can get your message out there. So I know there's a lot to unpack there, but talk about how what your concept is and how you are trying to tell advertisers, the audience, combine all that together with your entrepreneurial spirit.
You're right. There's a lot to unpack there, but you want me to do my TikTok dance for you?
Are you doing TikTok?
I'm telling you, talk about new ways. Talk about new ways of communicating. The last thing I would have expected to see is people dancing in front of their telephones to music and doing their crazy routines and wait a minute. Here's how you can make $1 million on Amazon. Here's how look what you can do on your cell phone. Oh, look how beautiful. Look at my food. I mean, please, people, what's changed is that everyone has become what I trained to do as a professional. They think they can do the same thing. And some of them do it very well and very lucratively. I mean, some of these YouTube guys make way more money than I ever made. And that's because they're connecting one-on-one. Right. And and it's a one-on-one connection. I've always said this about, and when I've ever lectured at a university, at a journalism school, or whatever it is that they've asked me, I always say, look, when you hear an anchor or a reporter say, hello, everybody, I'm looking around the room going, who else is in the room with me? I'm here by myself. Are you talking to me or to everybody in the world? And it's a big mistake because, you know, Richard, you and I are talking to one person who's at home watching this on their computer and saying, I want to be part of this conference and I want to learn something. So yeah, I'm talking to you at home by yourself. You're watching this. You know, I think that what's happened is that it's instant. The communication is instant. It can happen on your phone. It can happen so easily. We used to have big TV stations that was the only way you could get information out, or radio stations. Before that, there were wire services, and you know, the newspapers are almost dead because they're too late. You know, by the time you find out that you know, somebody did something, it's already been out on the interwebs, as we call it. The social media threads are everywhere. I hate looking at my phone when I'm watching a game because they're 3 seconds ahead of what I'm watching on TV. So put the phone down and not pay attention. So yeah, the communications have changed and advanced so much that you can get virtually whatever you want on this gadget. And to me, I think that the challenge is for anybody who's trying to create something new is to find that new thing. What is that new thing that's going to connect with your audience? What is that new technology that's going to make it easier for them to find what you have to say? And is what you have to say resonating with anybody? Does anybody care about what you're thinking or saying? And so that's the key. So in this environment, Hispanic Lifestyles has a mission and a focus and a niche that's really important. That's very, very important. Who all in the world cares about this? Well, they have found us through this medium. And so when you do broadcasting, and then the word broadcasting is really important to understand here. Television sends out a signal that goes out all over Los Angeles, for example, and it's regulated by the FCC, and they say, this is who you can talk to. Good luck reaching those people, but we're going to give you the opportunity to send out that signal to everybody who wants to. And you click through a channel to find the people that you like. And so that's the difference, is that now we don't need the broadcast. We don't need to be limited. You and I could share this with somebody in London or in Dubai or in South America without a license and without a broadcasting tower and without any infrastructure that really is significantly costly. I think we find ourselves that we can actually run a TV station for less than $500 and maybe make money. So I know I'm rambling on about this, but the truth is that the dynamics of communication have changed so much that A, we don't get a lot of the professionalism that we would expect that I'm used to, and B, there's no gatekeeper. So those two things are really important. The gatekeeper part in news is really important, that we've lost that, because you don't need a gatekeeper. I can do a live thing right now, and it can be on TV, on everybody's phone, and nobody's stopping me from saying what I'm going to say. I used to have really good producers say, Carlos, I wouldn't go there right now. Okay, that's good.
But we are living in a time where trusted voices are so important. We're talking about the vaccine, the pandemic. California is easing up restrictions. I mean, like you, I'm having a tough time really trusting who's saying what, where it's being posted, who's posting it, and more importantly, why they're posted. But how are you trying to solve this equation? I'm trying to get you to talk about Beyond TV is what I'm trying to.
I think Beyond TV's mission is to uplift, educate, and entertain. And we really stick to that. We really work on that very much. So we're not a news operation. We're more of a talk, get to know you, lifestyle operation. But we're also doing some business to business enhancements where we're taking brands and helping them amplify their message and amplify their brand in a way they've never thought before. Most brands just do commercials or traditional advertising. We take that advertising model and blow it up. We do brand identity, and we actually show people who's behind the brand. Why did they start that company? What's in those products that may be good or bad for you? Where is it available? How much is it? Is it competitive? Does it change people's lives? Is it good for the community? And we're very focused on diversity. So those things are all components of how we decide what we're going to do on Beyond TV. And the other thing is we want to leave you with a smile on your face. We want you to feel good about yourself, good about your life. There's so much heaviness in our world now. News is very negative, polarizing, sensational, untrustworthy. And so you need a bit of a respite from that. And so I believe that that's what made KTLA successful. When I was on KTLA, we told you all the bad stuff, but we didn't make you feel bad about it. And if you felt like you needed to do something about it, we encouraged that, but we didn't advocate it. And so the trusted part of it comes from time and experience. Those two things have to work together so that the audience says, oh, I trust Carlos. Oh, I trust Richard. I trust what they say because I've tried out their methodology and it works, and it's worked for them and it's worked for us. And so Beyond TV is really on a mission to be a trusted place to go, a safe place to go. Anybody in your family can watch any of our content and be safe. You might learn something, and hopefully it's entertaining, because we'll talk to celebrities, we talk to movie stars, we also talk to scientists and doctors and travel people and yoga people and chefs, YouTube stars. I mean, it's really a kaleidoscope of kind of the fun stuff that I've always liked. So it kind of runs, it's kind of the Carlos Amezcua life thing. And I love everything. I love to hear people's stories, and I get so excited when they're successful and they're really charging ahead. When I hear an actor say, "Oh, I finally got that part that I really wanted," and then they come back and they go, "Hey, guess what? I just won an Emmy for it. I just won an Oscar. This is incredible." So it's all positive in that regard with Beyond TV.
I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the future of the marketplace. I mean, you have a business model, but in general, the marketplace of media. And how do you think, quite honestly, if you had a crystal ball, you would be betting on other things. But the point being is that the industry and the way I feel it's just changing, that you have a very big operation that you're working with Beyond TV, but there are pockets there where everybody can compete at a local level, a micro level, even a national level. Mm-hmm. If your content is good, we both believe in quality content and inspiring people. But specifically, my question is the marketplace, the industry. Where do you think that's going? And here's a bold statement. Do you really think the major networks will still be around in 5 years?
It's a really interesting question, and I'm glad you asked that, because recently I was talking to somebody at one of the television manufacturing companies, and he kept talking about FAST, and we've got SVOD, we got VOD, we got OD, OTT, and they go through all these acronyms. And then he drops this FAST thing on me. And I said, FAST, I'm sorry, I don't think I've ever heard of FAST. Have you heard of FAST? And he said, no, free advertising supported television. I went, wait a minute, you mean TV? You mean we've got, and here's this 35-year-old guy who thinks it's the newest thing in the world. Free advertising supported television. I said, that's regular television.
Right.
So it's gone full circle. And to answer your question, yes, of course, there's room for the networks to coexist with digital and all the things that are out there, because people have a voracious appetite for good content. So as long as the content is good, they're going to survive. Local TV stations serve the local market. And I think what's going to happen is they're getting squeezed because the dollars are going away from their huge buckets of money. And they have to respond to the audience. And the audience just wants to know, if you live around Echo Park, you want to know what's going on in Echo Park. You want to know what's going on with the homeless. You want to know if the fountain's going to be on when you go down there with your family. You're also going to want to know what's going on with the crime. And if you're looking for a place to live and you want to live near a cool place in Echo Park, you want to know what the real estate values are. So the TV stations have a mission now. They have to be more local. They have to stop trying to do everything for everyone, and they have to really focus on their local environment, their local community that they serve, which is what they're licensed for. I think when you get to the network level is, programming there is getting creamed by Amazon and Netflix. Those companies have figured out that the audience wants uninterrupted. They will subscribe to it, they will pay for it, and they want a high quality product. So those things have made those companies really, really grow. Somewhere in between Netflix and broadcast television is beyond TV. So there are those of us who are doing free advertising supported television digitally. And that's what we're doing. And I think what the future of that is that everyone kind of lives together. And I remember once having a conversation with a general manager about digital. 12 years ago, 13 years ago now. And I said, I'm going to volunteer. You only have me doing one newscast a day. I will do a newscast every hour on the internet. I'll do 5-minute newscast every hour on the internet. Why do we have to wait till 10 o'clock? Why do we have to wait till noon? Why don't we do it every hour? We have the capacity, we have the camera, we have the crew. Just turn the lights on and let's go. Let's talk about what's going on in the news, and let's do it now. Let's not wait. Let's not tease. Let's just do it now. He looked at me like I was crazy. He says, "You're willing to work that much to do that?" I said, "No, it's not that I'm willing to work that much. It's that that's the way it's going. We have to be ahead of this, man. This is important. We have the ability to go live now. Well, let's do it on the internet and people will come to it." And he said, "You're crazy. Get out of here." Well, that's exactly where it went. That's exactly where it went. Now, KTLA just recently launched KTLA Plus, and you can catch them on all the time. They're still not doing it. By the way, broadcast stations are still not doing that, and they should be doing it.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Malia Cohen. I am right here filming in my living room in San Francisco, California. I'm born and raised right here in San Francisco, and I spent 8 years serving the city and county of San Francisco on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, and now I am on the State Board of Equalization. I've been serving on the BOE for the last 3 years, and excited to be here.
Well, let's get right into it. Let's talk about the new addition and your young child, your baby, Madison.
Yeah,
a new mom in the pandemic.
Yeah.
Share some insights about that.
Well, that's really interesting. First of all, it's the only experience I know. So I don't know of any other experience. There's nothing else I could share or compare to. It was a very nerve-wracking year. Madison was 9 months old just yesterday. She was born in September. So she was right at the height of the pandemic. No vaccinations were out yet. There were a lot of rules that were restricting my husband and I and parents that were expecting on how babies would be delivered. I mean, like, it was kind of a free-for-all. I stayed in the house. I was a strict quarantiner. And I really only ventured out towards the end of my pregnancy when I had to go for weekly checkups on the baby, checking the heartbeat and the fluid level in the sac. But for the most part, I can attest to the highs and lows of telemedicine. I am an expert of taking my own blood pressure now. And so during my pregnancy, I purchased some blood pressure equipment and a very sophisticated scale so I can keep track of my weight gain, my fluids, like all of these things that normally a doctor would take for me. I did have to go in only for urinalysis when required, but I've been online Zooming since the beginning of the pandemic. And that includes conversations with medical providers. So it's really been, it's actually not as bad as you would think because it's quiet, it's peaceful. I've got a great home. I have a fantastic husband, but I also had a doula. And I believe if I did not have that doula, that would have been a game changer. She was amazing. She came in and she taught us. So Richard, you have kids and your youngest is 11. And so you may remember, you probably went to the hospital, you probably went to health class, you probably went to like baby CPR. There's things that happen, classes that you could take as a new parent or an expecting parent. For me, everything was all online. Everything.
So you did get to do those kinds of things.
I did, but I did not get to foster like real true sense of community, right? I'm not able to talk and commiserate and share with other moms and experiences. I do, but it's always been via Zoom. So there's a little lacking there. You and I both agree we like to touch people and we like to be social and, you know, and really be out there. So that was sacrificed.
Well, I'm honestly, I know that we're here to talk about business, but you know, at the end of the day, I really appreciate you sharing that life experience with us.
Yeah, but I mean, what good is business if our family isn't in order, right? For me,
exactly.
my focus on business, why I get up and do what I do in public service is all because of family. My parents, worrying about them, making sure they're healthy. I have family members that have small businesses, worrying about them, making sure that they have the access to the resources that they need. So, you know, for me, the two are inextricable. Like I must have a clear purpose, and that clear purpose resides within my family structure. That's what drives me to get up and get out and to do public service every day, year in and year out.
Well, speaking of public service,
yes.
And I think we set the tone here, Madam Board Member, if you would talk a little bit about your role on the Board of Equalization. How did you get there? And later on, I'm going to ask you, really, what does the Board of Equalization do?
I was waiting for that question. That is a very popular one and one that I'm always happy to talk about. So first of all, the Board of Equalization is a very understated but important role in state government. The Board of Equalization is made up of 4 elected board members and the 5th person being the state controller. And our state controller is Betty Yee. And Betty Yee was also a former Board of Equalization member. As a matter of fact, she sat in the seat that I sit in right now. So I represent 10 million people. I represent 23 counties from Del Norte County, which is just north of California, just the northern tip, all the way down south to Santa Barbara. And that includes Monterey County, that includes the beautiful Napa Valley, the Bay Area where I am, all the way down, you know, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara area. Just so it's a beautiful, beautiful district. And it is one of the most exquisite districts in terms of majestic beauty, but also the driving engine of the state of California. And what I mean by that is that the Napa Valley is a huge engine for business. Silicon Valley, technologically speaking, huge driver. But then you think about Monterey, you think about our farmland, our fertile farmland, the farm workers, also really important. So you've got rich counties like Santa Clara County, and then you got a poor county like Lake County, all within one BOE district. So as you can imagine, the needs are very diverse. But one thing that is universal is you want fair and transparent process. And the Board of Equalization is simply charged with the duty to administer the property taxes for the state of California. And that's a significant amount of money. We're talking about $75 billion. That's how much the state brings in. And that's important because a lion's share of that goes into public education, So you and I were talking, we both went to public schools. So property taxes pay for our education. And then also fire suppression. It pays for firefighters and equipment used. So that is also a really important function in the cities and counties. So these property taxes that, the Board of Equalization, people don't know about it until they get in trouble, until they have a problem with either paying their taxes or they believe that their property has unfairly been assessed, or it's overvalued. I deal with all of these things. And I work with the assessors. There's 58 county assessors. Now the assessors are the ones that actually go out and do the work. They assess the property. What we do is we make sure that their assessment is fair, hence the word equalizer. It's equal across county from county. So Mono County, Amador County, Alameda County, Riverside County, making sure that we are very fair in how we are assessing. So we set out the rules. We're a rule maker, we're a policy making body. And that's important because when the Board of Equalization was established, they were laying railroad in the state of California, right? Now this is about 147 years ago. That's how long the Board of Equalization has been around. And the price of steel was fluctuating. How do you assess property, the steel? And it was different in different counties. So they were like, hey, listen, we're going to have assessors that are going to be duly elected by their counties. And we're going to have a equal Board of Equalization members also duly elected by the counties that they represent, and therefore would take the politics and the politicking and the robbing of people out of the equation. So California is unique, and there's only 2 other states that have elected tax body that I sit on. So it's a constitutional office, which means that the state of California's constitution spells out my duties and responsibilities, just like it spells out the governor and the lieutenant governor and the controller and the treasurer and the secretary of state, as well as the superintendent of public education.
I know that we spoke off camera on this topic, but we're talking about being equal, fair representation, fair taxation. I mean, is it true? Really, you were the first Black woman to hold this? I mean, here we are in 2021. It just blows me away that you would be the first Black woman.
Yeah, this entering class that I came in 2019, we took an oath and we came in, and it was a motley crew, I got to tell you. So I was the first Black woman. My colleague, Antonio Vasquez, was the first Latino ever elected. Then there's a guy named Mike Schaefer that represents the San Diego area, down where you are, as a matter of fact, Riverside County. And he is the oldest constitutional officer still in office. So I think I'm one of the youngest. He's one of the oldest. We've got Blacks, we've got Latinos. I'm the only woman. So this is a really diverse a body. And I'm going to tell you that this is very important and critical, because this is where representation really matters. When you think about the pandemic and the crisis that we were in, how we have been able to step up, connect with our communities, and step up and provide an extra layer of comfort and information to property owners, people who are fearful of losing their home, people who are fearful of the effects of the fires. Sometimes people are invisible when you're coming from communities of color and you're afraid to speak up. Right. Well, when you got people that look like you got that representation, and it's a certain level of comfort. And you know it, and I know it. We've been in all white environments, and we know how that has an impact on how we engage, even if it is for our own self-interest. So being able to connect, being able to have Spanish spoken, being able to really dig deep in terms of where the resources are, I think is important for the state of California. As we begin to turn this corner and come out of this pandemic, you and I both know disproportionate rates of COVID-19 was in the Latino and the African-American community. When we're talking about crime and violence, we're talking about Latino, African-American community. And now, unfortunately, we're including the LGBT and Asian community.
Right.
So the whole point that I'm making is that representation matters. Betty Yee, Chinese-American woman, daughter of immigrants, also sitting on the Board of Equalization. She sits as our controller, but she also has a constitutional function. So this is one of the most diverse I probably would say the diverse in the history of California's state board of equalization.
I want to talk a little bit about the Board of Equalization and what it is and what kind of services that they may be offering to help relieve some of the pain, if you will, no pun intended, caused by the pandemic to our business owners, our business community.
I am not being rude. I represent in San Francisco, but I can connect anyone to their respective areas and their representatives. So if anyone has any questions when it comes to the Board of Equalization, when it comes to property tax, and when we're talking about property, oftentimes we think about real property. We think about a home. Churches, they're exempt, but we deal with those exemptions. Nonprofits, some of them are exempt, like universities. We deal with that level of exemption. But also, you know what I've learned, the bottles, the vats that wine is processed in and how it ferments, that's also a tax assessed and considered property tax by the assessors. So it's very interesting when you think about how what is property and how we define it. I can be reached in my office at 415-557-3000. 415-557-3000, or folks can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, or on Instagram. And my handle is the same. It's Malia Cohen or malia.cohen. And I'm always accessible and able to answer whatever questions taxpayers may have.
Again, to follow up, talk a little bit about kind of the services, if you will, that may benefit our business community. How, in other words, how should they utilize your office? Maybe a preemptive thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So since the pandemic, I mean, we've been incredibly busy. If you may remember, there was discussions on whether or not property tax bills would be postponed. There's also a certain level, there's an assessment appeals board. So your property, if you were going through an appeal process, your property is valued and assessed at a certain value that you disagree, there's a process that you would engage in to reassess that value. Now, reassessment, usually people want to go through a reassessment when they believe their values are too high and they're spending too much money. And this is a process that happens for businesses and it happens for top property owners like you and I. But they weren't meeting because the pandemic had shut everything down. So what we did was we got everything online and we moved. Believe it or not, I know it sounds simple, but it was really difficult to be able to move people's personal and confidential information. We had to make sure that it was secure. And so we now have assessment appeals boards that are online. This is just really one quick example of how we were able to keep kind of the flow of government, the flow of local government in particular moving. And that was important because if those tax dollars are not part of the budget, then there's going to be real cuts. And here we are in a pandemic, right? We're not getting hotel tax. Tourism is not happening. Sales tax is plummeting. People are not spending money. Restaurants are closed. We need to keep whatever dollars that we can. And that's why the property tax system became important. See, property tax system is not as volatile as personal income. And so a lot of people lost their jobs. You heard about the crisis with EDD. You heard about people not getting their checks. We saw and witnessed the fights that were happening in Congress about stimulus checks. Well, governments were fortunate to be able to have at the core, like a backbone, infusing their local economy, property taxes. So we did have to keep the wheels turning and we had to keep those, the assessment appeals moving forward. And so it's, again, an important function, but it is behind the scene, but it impacts people in different ways. So if you're not able to pay your property tax, we can work with you. We can get you on a payment plan. We can help develop a strategy. You would work with your assessor. You could contact me and we would partner you. So that's really just kind of like a real life example of what we did during the pandemic. And quite honestly, we're still as we move out, we're still working on behalf of the taxpayers.
Well, Madam Board Member, thank you so much for spending some time with us this afternoon. Thank you for your insights and your inspiring message. And I'm going to give you the final word, if you will.
Yeah, you know what? I want to say thank you because I think it's important that ethnic media be continually uplifted and supported. And I know it has been very difficult. It was difficult before a pandemic, and now coming out, being able to be resilient is important because you connect the voices of the leaders to the voices of the masses of the people, and that voice can never be squashed or squelched. When I think about Breonna Taylor, and I think about Amilcar Perez here in San Francisco, and Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd. I mean, there's just so much change that's happening, and it is through media that we're able to capture it and tell the story, the truth. Let people see the truth for themselves. So Richard, thank you for giving me an opportunity to stand with you on this great platform and just share a little bit of my truth.
My name is Lucy Santana, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Girls Inc. of Orange County, which is a local nonprofit organization. We're affiliated with a national organization, and we inspire girls to be strong, smart, and bold. And my role is to oversee the day-to-day of ensuring that we're doing programs for girls that help them to be empowered to make good decisions.
You know, a few years back, I believe it was 2014, you were a Hispanic lifestyle Latina of influence. And of course, you're still a Latina of influence. It's, you know, it doesn't go away. But when putting together our program for BizCon 2021, I was, you know, and coming out of the pandemic, I was thinking, who do I know in the nonprofit sector? That's why you came to mind. So Lucy, tell me how you've been doing since all this.
Surviving, but you know, thanks for inviting me and thanks for thinking of me. And so surviving the pandemic, I think as a nonprofit organization where our program typically runs in partnership with school districts, as you can imagine, in March of 2020, when school districts sent all their students home, we were sent home too, pretty much. You know, we really had to take a step back and say, how are we going to do our work? How are we going to coexist? Because we know that the girls that we serve, traditionally ages 5 to 18, and traditionally girls that need the additional support services to just get through the day-to-day are still going to need us, whether they're at home or, you know, they're doing virtual online schooling. So it took my team and I maybe about a week to really think through how we're going to reach them. So we did the traditional pick up the phone, call them, do text messages, do email. And during that time, as we were just trying to reach out to them and say, Girls Inc. is going to be here. Just give us a minute, give us some time to really kind of reflect on how we're going to do the proverbial pivot, right? What everybody was talking about, how are we going to pivot? We started thinking about how do we bring our programs online? Our programs are typically all about the connection, the connectivity to our staff and to the girls that we're serving, regardless of the age. The other piece was our programming was all about hands-on, experiential kind of programs. So whether we were talking about a confidence building program, a college readiness program, a workforce development program, or when we're working with the little ones on early literacy, science, technology, engineering, or math, we needed to figure it out how we were going to do this. So super excited that one of my team members, our chief program officer, in her background in her previous job, she'd run online college programming. So this was the time to use her skill set. And we'd already talked about when we get to that point, right? And I think that's what we've all talked about, is that we all sort of knew like someday, you know, there might be flexible work schedules and work from home. Well, we all had to figure it out very quickly, right? And we actually did it. So we purchased an online learning software. We also did YouTube videos immediately, and we figured out which ones of our programs we could do online, and then we took it out to the girls.
Now, with that, what kind of response did you receive? And did people adapt right away?
Well, I will tell you that the first thing we did was try to reach out to the schools, but they were in the same position as we were. They were still trying to figure out what they were going to do, let alone say, yeah, girls, come on, you know, Girls Inc., come on board and come along beside us. So what we basically said is, hey, when you're all ready to figure out how we can maybe be a resource to you, because we don't want to get in your way. We do know that the girls need their academics, but just know that we're going to be here to partner with you. So what we did is, the first thing we did, as I mentioned, was our YouTube channels. Our staff just started creating YouTube videos that were more of a conversation, and that brought the girls along with whatever particular subject it was going to be. And sometimes it was really just something that could be more light and a little bit more fun. And sometimes there were topics like, hey, today we're going to take a nature walk and we're going to point out the different kinds of plants and how they survive. And so they could do some learning while they were going. The other thing that we started doing right away was doing reading time, just, with the littles. So like the K through third graders, our staff would read a book with a female protagonist, because we wanted to make sure that they were learning about positive female role models in the books that we were reading. And the girls would read along with us. And then we would say, hey, what about this character, can you relate to, or what can you not? We did some word sounding if they didn't know how to read. So we were making it interactive in that way so that the girls could go along. But we realized that we needed that connection, that two-way communication. So about 100 YouTube videos later. So if you want to check out our YouTube site, we have many. We ended up doing in this last year, we did online prom, we did online, graduations. We celebrated milestones for these girls. We did a lot of things that were, something that they were all on, right? They were all on a computer anyway. And so they just learned to do that. I think the biggest thing was looking at what we were going to invest our limited resources on. We didn't know what fundraising was going to be like, right? So as a nonprofit, we raise every dollar of our budget every year. So we had to figure out our individual donors going to give, our corporate donors going to give, and our foundations, right? And we typically have a big fundraiser that raised about over $400,000. Well, now you can't get 300 people in a ballroom. So what do you do? So that was the first thing. We postponed our gala that was coming up in June in 2020. And we said, let's figure out how we'll do that later. Let's talk to our corporate donors about how important our programming still is, and will they still be able to support us? And so we talked to many, and that was really helpful. And then what we did was we purchased our online system where we were able to do synchronous and asynchronous learning. So the girls had the opportunity to learn from a teacher or an educator, and then they also had modules that they could do on their own. And that's really how we reached them. But it took a lot of phone calls, emails, text messaging. We realized that parents sometimes don't check their emails. And so then we were like, okay, how else can we do this? So then we had to go through the girls. Obviously, reaching girls K through sixth grade was a little bit easier because you still have access to parents that way. But what we found is through text messaging and really just a lot of insistency, we were able to reach those middle and high school girls. And I'm excited to share as we go forward how we actually figured out what were some of our really great strengths and how we were actually able to serve more girls than we ever had in some of our programs.
Well, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you is, number one, funding to keep going and offer the programs and the quality programs that you do, and then capacity. So if you would share to our audience today, maybe some insights of how you addressed, again, I know that they're donations from your funders. I realize that, but they do expect you guys to do certain things.
Right.
And if you would talk about how you satisfied maybe their requirements, and then did you increase capacity?
Great question. So I think the first thing that I'll say is that it's all about relationships. That's one of the key things that we learned immediately. And in fundraising, but I think it's the same thing in business, right? In sales, it's all about the relationship that you have with your customer, your client. And for us, corporation or an individual donor is somebody that we want to create that relationship with. So I looked at our top 50 donors and I just started making phone calls. The interesting thing was that we were all in the same situation, right? Whether they were they were in the workforce, they had their employees that were staying home and they were trying to figure it out, whether it was an individual donor that is a philanthropist and they had family or they themselves were dealing with that. I think it was really about like, hey, here is what Girls Inc. is doing today. Here is what we're thinking we're going to do in the next 2-3 months until we figure this out. And we really need you to continue to support us. Here's the outcomes that we think we'll really still be able to achieve with your support. And now more than ever, this is when we need you. We cannot pull away when the girls are not only now are they going to be out of their element, out of their school environment where there's structure. Now they're going to be at home. Some of them we know are going to be home by themselves. Some of them are not going to have the resources at home to help them. Do they have adequate Wi-Fi? Do they have a computer? Do they have the technology that they need? So we need to do that. And that was what I was really pleased about was the conversations that were coming up and the questions that were coming up by our donors and funders were, what can we do more for the girls? I mean, they really jumped in and they really embraced this. Do we need to buy more computers? Do we need to buy hotspots? What are their schools doing? And I mean, I was also very impressed that schools really were able to step up and to be able to do that for their students. But I think, there was other things that schools couldn't do for them. And we know that when you're working with the most under-resourced population, you've got multiple families living in one unit. You've got multiple kids that are in the same household. And for a parent who may have a lesser than high school education, how are they going to help their kindergartner, their second grader, their seventh grader, or their high schooler? And so we really wanted to be there for them, to be there to be an emotional support, but also to support, just to kind of be their cheerleaders, like, don't give up, keep going. So that's the first thing, that was kind of the way we pivoted and the way that we felt like that's the place that we were going to be able to hold for ourselves. And then having those conversations with the donors of saying, I'm happy to call you in 3 months and let you know what else is happening. And then what was the other part of your question? I forgot.
I wanted to know if you increased
Oh, yes.
capacity.
Yes.
How many young women were you assisting at the beginning and then at the end, if you will?
So pre-COVID in 2019, we served about 4,100 girls. Okay. At the end of 2020, we were like doing the happy dance in December and January of this year. We served 3,500 girls. I think that the fact that we were still able to reach that many girls in a year where we were just not able to go to them and see them in person was really critical. And here's how we did it. We went through all of our curriculum, all of our programs. We thought about what are all the critical skill sets, life skills that these girls need in every age category that we serve. So maybe the K through 5th grade, the 6th through 8th grade, and then the 9th through 12th grade. And we said, let's bring the strength to our programs. What we also realized is that in so many ways, we were hindered in how many girls we can serve, because when we were school-based, the girls that attended that program, that school, were the only girls that were able to attend that program, right? So if we were only at 5 high schools, only those 5 high schools are being served. So when we started to go digital and virtual, we realized that now we can reach every girl in Orange County and beyond. So that was really where we learned our strength. So we went from serving, here's a good example, in our college readiness program, where we serve girls that are getting ready to, in this case, it was always SAT, ACT prep, and learning about what classes they need to take. We always had an average of about 45 to 50 girls. In 2020, we served 110 girls in that program. And that was because we were able to go virtual. We were able to recruit from every high school, every city. We even had girls from the Inland Empire and LA County, San Diego County saying, hey, can we go to your programs? And we were like, absolutely. We're not going to turn anybody away. We scaled the programming that we were doing. We scaled our staff time. I actually had people that were part-time. We put them to full-time because we needed to do that. So that was really important to us. So that was an example of that. What we also did was I shared a little bit about doing the literacy program with our younger girls and we still wanted to continue to show them about reading and encourage them to read. but we also started incorporating the family. So what we started doing is we're going to do bedtime stories. So from 7 to 7:30 for just a 30-minute Zoom call weekly, we started doing bedtime stories. And what we found is we would have the girl, the brother, the sister, the mom and dad, they'd all like either be on the couch or on a bed, and we would read them a story, and they would like, engage in the conversation. The girls had opportunity to ask questions about the book, and we did too. And this became like a family affair, and it was a weekly activity that these families now were looking forward to participating in.
How cool is that?
What was that?
How cool is that?
Right. I mean, for us, it was like, oh, well, this is something that we know we're going to be able to continue to do now. Like, it's not something we're going to stop. We're not going to stop during the summer. We're going to keep going. And, and now we're last summer, because it was still so new, we only did about 5 summer camps, and they were virtual. This summer for 2021, because we're still doing kind of a hybrid model, we're going to have 19 different summer program offerings, some in person, some hybrid, like maybe a couple of days a week online, and then like the 4th day in person, because we're still trying to just kind of figure out what's going to be the safest, best way. But that is really what we found, is that having gone virtual, it is allowing us to serve more girls in different communities that didn't know about us. And what we also found is, as concerned as we are that we want to make sure that girls stay connected to us, we also were introduced to a whole lot of other new girls that hadn't reached us before.
Being in the nonprofit sector and being responsible for raising money, you and I off camera spoke about meeting new people, new funders, creating new relationships. Have you started to think about that post-pandemic, of how it is you're going to, you're in a growth industry. Have you thought about how it is you're going to operate?
For sure. I think there's some few unknowns, but I think what we do know is the power of relationships. I think the power of networking beyond like who you know, and certainly, going to events was always a helpful way to meet others. I know that I've used LinkedIn a lot more now during this last year to make connections with folks or to reach out to people I didn't know. And I figured, just as I would walk up to a stranger at a mixer, I can send an unsolicited email to somebody, but really, and not in a kind of like stalking kind of way, but, just like, hey, I see that you're in this industry. And really for me, it was really about, we're looking for speakers to come in to talk to girls about a career in X or Y. And I read your profile. I think it'd be great. Now you can do it through Zoom. You don't have to come in. If you're in LA County, you can still come in and meet with the girls and talk to them about this. So I think we are getting a little bit more resourceful in using the technology that maybe was available to us, but maybe we just didn't take the time to learn to what capacity we could use it. I think that's one. I think the other is still like, I know when I had a couple of conversations with some of our donors and our corporate partners, I said, is there anybody else that you think that you could introduce me to that could be of value to them and to us, and it's only if you're comfortable, but I would put it out there that this is an opportunity for us to kind of grow. And I think, again, it was a little easier to say like, yeah, let's just jump on a quick, Teams chat or a Zoom chat, and I can introduce you to that person. So I have had quite a bit of introductory Zooms or team chats with people that I didn't know before that maybe I would have never made that connection with. And I think, one of the things that I do want to say that you and I chatted about offline too was a big portion of the work that we do is preparing girls for the workforce. And, we had to, relook at our curriculum, right? Because we talked about the power of networking and the strong handshake with the eye contact and all of those things. And those are things that we are continuously learning about, right? And we've been able to continue to plan for that. And I will say that here is something that we hadn't really thought about. Previous to 2020, we had placed maybe about 60, 70 girls in workplace externships where they got to go and interact with people in an office and learn about that industry. 2020, we paused it, but we're back ready to roll. We have over 120 girls in the program right now ready to learn about workforce. And we're going to be placing about 65 girls this summer in virtual workplace externships. And so they're going to be meeting with somebody. Now the work is a little different. So we've decided that, you know what, they need the skill sets to learn about project-based learning and how to complete those projects. So we talked with our corporate partners about how do you create an experience for these girls that's still going to be meaningful. And, you know, an Ingram Micro, a Boeing, how do they still learn about engineering? How do they still learn about technology? And these partners have really stepped up to really create a really well-rounded externship for them. But, you know, girls are going to need to learn how to network in different ways as well.
If you would share with us a final piece of advice that you would give your other colleagues in the industry that are in the nonprofit sector that you feel comfortable sharing.
I think a couple of things. One of the other things that helped us to be successful and to be able to get through some really tough times was that we all have to remember that our nonprofit status is only a tax status. It's not the way that we do business. We are, as CEOs or executive directors, whatever our title is in the nonprofit space, we're still running a business. We still have employees, and we still have to make sure that we're using our money to the best way possible. You know, it is about whether you have, even if you have a small staff, this is why we have board members that we can go out to and be a resource for us. We applied for PPP loan. We learned everything that we could learn about in terms of what would be available for a small business, because sometimes we forget that we are a small business and that we actually do have access to capital and resources in that way. So we were really, we were able to get actually 2 PPP loans. We got one the first year, and then we got the second one this year. We've already had our first one forgiven. We also looked into what are some of the other things. So we learned about the employee retention credit, which has been a lifesaver for us in terms of being able to cover our expenses and salaries. But it is about not giving up. And obviously, you know, we teach our girls about resiliency, but this was an opportunity for us as an organization to learn about resiliency. And I think the biggest learning that I told my staff was we should not be afraid to ask. And sometimes, you know, in the nonprofit space, we always feel like we're asking for money, but this time it was really also about asking for advice, because that was just as valuable than the money that comes in. We always need money, you know, that is just what drives us. But resources on, hey, you know, how do you apply for the PPP loan? Do you know what are some other ways to do it? And I think the other thing that I will say is that we are, and nonprofits are typically organizations that are human capital, that are run by human capital, and that is really important that we make that connection with our clients, our girls, our constituents of whoever we're serving. And I think that at the end of the day is not forgetting that, and being able to also just think about what they need. But sometimes before you can help others, you have to help yourself. So it's kind of the whole put the air mask on you before you can help others. I think that's what one of the things that I also learned is in being able to lead my team. I also needed to be in the right space, right? I needed to mentally be there. And all of us had our home issues to deal with. I had, I had to homeschool somebody while trying to run a nonprofit, with 28 employees and so forth. So I had to care for everybody else. And I think that that's something that sometimes we just go, and we have to remember to take care of ourselves first.
I'm going to ask you, Lucy, do you have any other final thoughts that you would like to share with our friends and colleagues that are tuning in to BizCon 2021?
I think my final thoughts are really about continuing to be, show our own resiliency, show self-care. But I also feel that for us in the nonprofit space, it's really learning new ways to do our business is not a bad thing. I've been with the organization for 22 years, and one of the things that drives me is I don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over again. So every couple of years, it's like, how can I change it up? What can I do different? Because that's going to keep me passionate about our mission of inspiring girls to be strong, smart, and bold. So I really feel like what the pandemic has done for us is really helped us to think beyond today and beyond tomorrow, and to really help us to, how do we plan for things that are just unforeseen, right? We don't ever want to find ourselves in this position again, but so many of us were sort of just circling, right? Because we just really weren't sure. And who knows when we'll really be back to a new normal, but I'm really glad that we're heading in that direction, and we just got to hang in there. And I think situations and events like BizCon where we have the opportunity to learn from each other, I think is really important. And I hope that, I want to be able to be a resource for anybody else who I can be a resource for.
Well, since you made the offer, do you have a website? How do we follow you? How do we connect with you?
Absolutely. www.girlsinc-oc.org, or I'll even give you my email, lsantana@girlsinc-oc.org, but find me on LinkedIn as well.
Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us this afternoon. I really appreciate it, Lucy.
Thank you, Richard.
The Riverside County Office of Economic Development provides the highest level of service to our customers, businesses, patrons, and residents. With a focused purpose to effectuate achievement and success, the county has developed a streamlined and efficient level of service. Through a wide range of economic development programs, the department is dedicated to creating a system for responsible economic growth in the region. Riverside County Office of Economic Development. We're here to help your business.
Jerry, I was literally up late last night thinking about this conversation because I'm really excited about it. And I wanted to challenge myself. And really, before we even get really into detail, what is branding?
Well, a brand is a promise. And the promise is of an experience. And the experience is what people are going to feel as a result of working with you or using your product. And the whole idea with branding is to meet unmet demand. In other words, anyone who has their own business that's tuning in here, the brand has to be able to say to your audience, I've got something you've been looking for that you've never found before. And guess what? You can only get it from me. And then what happens, Richard, is that all of a sudden, people feel like, wow, you're the person I want to do business with, because when you're a brand, you are one of a kind. And so that's really what it is. Now, Richard, what that also opens up, my friend, is what a brand is not. A brand is not a logo. It's not a website. It's not a pictorial. It's not the aesthetics. It's not anything that people can see, because great brands are built strategically and not visually. And Richard, I always like to tell people, if you have a hard time understanding that a brand is not your logo or your designs or your photography, let's take Coke and Pepsi. I doubt if the Coca-Cola drinkers prefer Coke because it's in a red can, or the Pepsi people because it's in the blue can. It's what's inside the can that counts, my friend. So the question to our audience is, what's inside your can? You follow me?
I love that. And I don't want to stop you there because you're on a roll here, but I'm going to tell you, I've been doing this for about 25 years, and I really thought it was my logo. I really thought it was my tagline. And I'm being serious. I'm sure that there's other people out here, my colleagues and friends that are watching this, think the same thing too. Okay, how does my branding look? How does it look at this advertisement in this magazine or this posting on Facebook? I mean, honestly, I've redesigned and adjusted my logo over the year just so it would kind of fit the times. Not to belabor the point, but we did go from a newsletter to a magazine, to a website, to a television show, and now we're in this digital space. And now you just told me that it really isn't just my logo.
It really isn't. It really isn't, because if you think about it, you want to make a prominent impression in the market. You want to have impact. You want to scale your business. You want to grow it as fast as you can and as easy as you can. Now, within that context, understand that there's a lot of layers to branding, but in the big picture sense, there's 3 levels. The first level is called strategic branding. And Richard, that's where you're laying down a foundation, like building a house. And that foundation has to be as sturdy and strong as possible so that you can do what? Build a strong, erect, one-of-a-kind brand upon it, so that at the end of the day, you can say the right things the right way to the right people. And then once that work is done, the next level is what's called visual branding. And so if the goal, Richard, think about it, if the goal in level 1 is to make sure that your brand has the strongest body, voice, and spirit possible. The goal in level 2 is to bring that to life. Visually, how? Through your website, through your communication platforms, through whatever you're going to do to get the word out about your brand so that you can create some desire for your brand. And then the next level, Richard, is the one that's emerged in recent years, and that's called social media branding. So now you're posting your videos and whatnot on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and the rest of them. But you've got to go from level 1, make sure that you've got the foundation in place so that you can then build your brand upon it and then get it out there, right, to your market.
I could definitely see, and I've got 2 pens handy, so I want to talk about this. And I know that we're jumping into it, but let's back up 2 steps. What is your background? What is your professional background? What gave you the insights and the, not only the insights, the passion? I mean, I just hear it in your voice, what this knowledge you want to share with us.
Oh my goodness, my friend. I love telling this story. I was at a networking event 25 years ago or so, and it was before the internet, and there were 300 people in the room, and the organizer says to the audience, please stand up if you're in the same field that you majored in college. And Richard, I stood up with 2 people, 3 out of 300. So my educational background is I went to USC, University of Southern California, right? And I'm proud to say that I earned my way into USC. My parents didn't have to cheat my way into USC because of the college.
Ouch.
I know, yeah, it hasn't been easy for us Trojans, right? And while I was there, I went to the Marshall School of Business, got 2 degrees, my bachelor's degree, my MBA degrees, cum laude, honors, blah, blah, blah. And I majored in marketing with deep study in branding. And when I graduated from USC, I went to work for who? P&G, Procter & Gamble. And for those of you out there who don't know it, P&G is more or less who wrote the book on branding. So I'm working in brand strategy in the field of what's called brand management, helping to grow some of their laundry brands like Cascade and Air Liquid laundry detergent, worked in the citrus juice and drink industry. And then I started my brand development and training company full time in 1985. This is my 36th year doing this work, Richard. Yes, I did start when I was 10 with a lemonade stand. Yes, dinosaurs are roaming the earth. Yes, something new just emerged called the personal computer. I'm not exaggerating. And I like to tell that story because I read an article, Richard, which says that the average American changes their job or career 10 to 15 times in a lifetime. I've never done anything my entire adult life but branding. I live and breathe branding. I love everything about branding. And a lot of what you should know is that in the branding universe that I orbit in, I'm regarded as a bona fide branding guy. Because a lot of people say they do branding, and then you find out, oh, you do logos, you do designs, you do pretty colors, photography. Oh, your idea of branding is to shoot some videos and put them on Instagram. That's not what I do. Because great brands really have to be crafted a certain way.
You know, and you cut out there at the very end. So I'll give you what did you say at the very end there?
I said, what I do is I do all the deep dive work to make sure that the brand is put together as thoroughly as possible so that you have the kind of brand that can make that impression. And so if all you focus on is what, just doing logos and stuff like that, that's pseudo branding. You're not giving people a total reason to choose you. And so that's what I do.
I knew you threw out some big names there, but you are helping out guys like myself, smaller companies.
I only work with small businesses, yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, that's all I work with. Solopreneurs, a lot of them, or they may just have a few employees because I love the quote unquote, the little guy, right? But they're the backbone of any nation's, any country's economy. And so I love working with individuals who have something great to offer the world. It could be a product, it could be a service, because there's 5 types of brands, Richard. You can brand a company, a product, a service, a nonprofit, or yourself as what's called a personal brand. Think Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, Oprah, right? That whole thing. And so I specialize in doing all of that, but my sweet spot is how to brand services, skills, talents, abilities, because that's a lot different than branding a product, because a product is tangible. People can see it, taste it, touch it, smell it, hear it. When you're branding yourself, for example, and you've got some gifts and expertise to offer people, you've got to brand that a certain way. And that in by itself requires a lot more than a logo or what people can see.
Well, it does. And the reality of what we're just coming out of now, and we haven't even touched on the pandemic, the stay at home.
Yeah.
I've read several reports that a third of our businesses have closed and shuttered nationwide. So again, you and I talked off camera, and again, I'm really excited about having this discussion with you, with our friends here. And that is, I feel like that there's been a reset in the economy. In other words, this is the time to rebrand yourself, to reimagine what it is you do and how to reintroduce yourself. What are your thoughts about that? Have you been working with clients on that throughout 2020 and, of course, our post-pandemic?
Oh, that's a great question. And you said that so well. You know, Richard, before the internet, before the pandemic, the latest numbers that I heard was that there were 1.7 billion websites on the World Wide Web. And who knows what that number is now, because we've become this virtual economy. And so what's happening is that it's getting harder and harder for any owner to do three primary things: stand out, get noticed, and be remembered. And then on top of that, if no one's paying attention to you, then now you're fading into the background, because unless you're standing out, you're invisible. So more so than ever before, you've got to harness the power of having the strongest online presence possible by first making sure that you've got a strong brand, and then you market and sell that brand effectively. And Richard, it's always like, you know, the branding and the marketing and the selling have to work together. It's like a three-legged stool. And the job of branding is to differentiate your business. The job of marketing is to get people to pay attention to you, to notice that difference, to desire that difference. And the job of selling is to get people to pay for that difference. Oh, you missed it, Richard. I'm going to make you smile here in a second. You gotta differentiate yourself and let people know that, you know what, I've got something better and different than any other option you may be considering. The job of marketing is to draw attention to that, generate awareness, and then get people to pay for it. The way I like to say it, my friend, is that branding will get you known, marketing will get you found, and selling will get you paid. Amen? You got to get found. You got to get known, get found, and get paid, because we're all in business to be seen, to be heard, and to make money. And so in this brand conscious world that we live in, if you're putting out a service and not a brand, if you're putting out a product as opposed to a brand, you're gonna die on the vine, because people prefer to do business with brands. And that's the key word here, which is preference. I want all of our listeners to understand this. You've got to generate consumer preference to choose you over other options, right? I mean, it's all about, like, you know, Rich, is so funny. I don't cook. And so, in fact, during the pandemic, I even took online cooking lessons, but I become this takeout and delivery guy. So when I want food delivered, I prefer Grubhub. I mean, there's nothing wrong with DoorDash or Uber Eats or Postmates or other options, right? I mean, Some people prefer Coke over Pepsi, Pepsi over Coke. Some people prefer Nike over Adidas. Before the pandemic, when I was flying all over the country, speaking at different conferences on big branding for rideshare, I prefer Lyft. I'm a Lyft guy. Nothing wrong with Uber. The point is that nowadays, more so than ever before, you have got to get people to choose you over the competition by giving them valid reasons to choose you, because you may be good at what you do. The key, though, is to get people to pay you to be good at what you do. And that's branding.
So the experience.
Strategic branding.
Yeah, strategic branding.
Yeah.
The experience is what set them apart. I mean,
yes.
Did you ever, and just, this is my own curiosity here, did you ever slip into your analytical mode and start evaluating the services, Grubhub versus DoorDash, Lyft versus, did you really go through that? Wow. Yeah,
because you have what are called brand touch points, which has to do with how are you making people feel at every key point during a transaction. before the transaction, I should say before the transaction, during the transaction, and afterwards. And so it's something as simple as ordering takeout or delivery speaks to that. So when I go to Grubhub, I love how they lay everything out. They make it easy to select, right? They come up with different options around what I'm looking for to eat. And I find that to be better than my experience, let's say with, DoorDash. But see, you're hitting on a good thing here. If a business owner is not aware of what matters the most to their clientele, where does your customer place their highest value? Is it on speed? Is it on turnaround time? Is it on quality? I mean, you have to know what that is so that you can do what, Richard? Not only meet their expectations, but exceed them. And that's where so many owners fall short.
Again, speaking as a small business owner, I'm going to give you a little bit of an example of something I just went through. And that was, I needed some concrete work done in front of my house. I went out and got 3 quotes. Jerry, I got to tell you, the presentations were all sub-level. I don't know if it's because we're right now in a time where concrete work, they've got all kinds of jobs running out. But I don't know about you. The more work I have, the more work I want to have. But in this case, all 3 of the guys, the presentations, the pricing, it was just amazing. And you sit there and being analytical myself, and I'm a Virgo, I overanalyzed it and I thought, how in the world do these guys stay in business? I mean, they were construction guys, so I wasn't expecting the suit and tie.
Right.
They were all personable.
Yeah.
I think only one explained the process to me. Right. None of the 3 actually even gave me a written proposal. So talk about the construction guy. Where did they go wrong? How could you help them?
Because they presented themselves like a commodity. There's a difference between putting out a brand versus a commodity. Now, what I'm getting into here is a choice that every owner has. You can be me too or me only. If you're me too, you basically are allowing the customer to commoditize what you have. Because if you sound like and look like and offer the same things as your competitors, now you are just another penguin in the group. You're just another cow in the herd. You're just another slice in the loaf. And so when that happens, where basically you're just putting out bare minimum expectations, what they would expect at a minimum, when you're looked upon as a commodity, the only thing the customer wants to know at that point is what's your price. Now, here's what's interesting, Richard. Brands like Starbucks and Nike and others like them have shown us that the products they offer are less important than the brands they market and sell. Because when you're putting out a brand, you've now made the decision that you're going to do what? You're going to deviate and not conform. All right? You're going to show up as being distinct, because if not, you risk being extinct just like those guys. As you were saying that, it reminded me of one time I was branding landscape contractors. And they're not too far behind from those guys with the concrete.
Right.
And all they kept talking about, low bid, low price, low price. They think everything's about the lowest price. And I said, no, it's not about low price. It's about best value. Speak about the impact that your landscaping can have, the experience someone's going to receive if they come into your backyard and do something amazing. And so I got this one landscaper to, instead of saying, I'll come down there and plant some flowers and plants and some greenery and do some irrigation, I got him to say, I would transform your backyard into your own personal paradise. It would be like heaven on earth in your own backyard. I don't do pink flamingos. And my prices start at $50,000. Oh, you see what I'm saying here? Because you have to decide, am I offering plain vanilla? Or am I going to put some sprinkles on it? And so what's happening, Richard, just like those concrete guys, just like some of these other contractors, because I've worked with 100,000 small businesses, 600 different industries. It's all I've done my entire adult life, Richard. So, I can pretty much brand anything. What I'm really seeing here is that there's a lot of plain vanilla. You need to determine what your flavor is and put some sprinkles on it and serve us something mouth-watering, which means that you don't sound like everybody else. Okay.
Well, speaking of sounding like everybody else, distinguishing yourself in the marketplace, and I put a little thought into that because we live online right now, of course, and we have access to a lot of information. There are packages out there, templates, if you will.
Yeah.
And talk to me a little bit about that, and in the sense that, if you're starting out, you probably don't have the budget some people have, and you're waiting for your first sale to do this, that, and the other thing, and pay that bill and what have you. But really advise us on should we be looking at templates? Should copy somebody else's because we want to be like them? If you would kind of address those questions.
Absolutely. The answer to that is no. Okay. You want to root your brand in what's called your brand DNA. So, Richard, if you were to look at your thumb, and I did the same thing, what's unique about our thumb? And our thumbprint, it's ours. No one else has it. There's only one Richard Sandoval. And Richard Sandoval, just like everybody else, has special qualities, certain characteristics that define you and allow you to do what you do the way that you want to do it. That's going to matter the most to your audience. And so if you're trying to duplicate it and be like everybody else, you now are what? Just a bottle of water. But if you say, I'm not going to be just a bottle of water, I want to be Evian. I don't want to just be a razor blade. There's Gillette. I don't want to just be another banana. There's Chiquita. Where am I going with this? When you make the decision to innovate and not imitate, you're now going to say to yourself and ask yourself, what are my distinguishing qualities? What are those extraordinary attributes that I possess? And Richard, everybody tuning in here has those. The way you think, your perspectives, your wisdom, what you know works and doesn't work. And it's like putting together your own special recipe. It becomes your secret sauce that gives people a reason to believe you. And so the thing right now, Richard, write this word down, is the word because. That's the key word. And if I were talking to some of our viewers right now, and if I was to ask everybody, blurt out some of your favorite brands. Oh my God, I can hear it already, Richard. Nike, Starbucks, Subway, and on and on and on. And then if I were to ask everybody, why did you choose those brands? Oh, I love the way it feels. I love the way it tastes, and blah, 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 blah. I would then say, you know what you all have in common? One word, because. You prefer that brand name for a reason. What is your because? And that because, Richard, is what's called your secret sauce. You're giving people a reason to believe you. I always like to joke around and I tell people, anybody remember what KFC was back in the day? Oh, the Colonels. What was it known for? The original secret recipe. What was that? The magical blend of 11 herbs and spices. Got it. Out here in California, Richard, we've got, as you know, Chevron gasoline. What does Chevron say? Chevron's got Techron. So you'll have a happier car, right? Because it'll have better gas mileage. And now, what's the point? They differentiate with what? Their additives, because our gasoline is the same. So they say they've got something called Techron, which separates it from other gasolines. I'm watching a TV commercial for Bounty paper towel. They put on the right there on the screen, Bounty, the quicker picker-upper. Let the spills begin. And then they split open the paper towel and say, look, Bounty absorbs 2 times more liquid than any other paper towel because we've got something called trap and lock technology. And I sit there as a consumer, I go, wow, nobody else has that. What a because. You see where I'm going with this? And so when you're branding yourself, and you've made the decision that you're going to be best in class, elite, top shelf, which means not only can you charge the prices that you want to pay, you are now staking your claim. You are planting your flag to be known for something that is fresh, original, and unique that the world has never heard and seen before. And Richard, put your fist up like this, my friend, and go like this: ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. That's the game. And everybody can do that if they know where to look. You got to find the magic in your brand. But if you're putting out services, if you're doing what everybody else is doing, no, dare to be different, and you'll always come out ahead.
Damn it, Jerry, you get me. I've been waiting for somebody to tell me that I was special, that I had the DNA. No, I agree. All those, and I know that's part of branding and taglines.
Yeah. That's all part of it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not trying to dissect them, but I'm a big, quite honestly, I have Apple to thank for providing me the gear. They're not a sponsor, but manufacturing the gear that I'm able to utilize today. And I'm a big fan of Apple. And you're right, there's a quote unquote, an Apple tax. So I am paying a premium for their products, for their software, and talk about that. I can see.
Yes. Oh my God. Because that's a great example. I talked about Starbucks and Nike and all of that. But listen, Apple is not in the business of selling computers. What they sell, what people are buying is what? Cool, edgy, innovative, right? Airbnb is not in the business of home rentals. They're in the business of people belonging anywhere. Nike does not sell sneakers and gear. What they sell is belief. Going all the way back to Michael Jordan with Air Jordans. My God, I want to be like Mike. I want to be like, put on some Nike gear and you can have this incredible athletic performance. So the idea here is everyone has to decide, what do you want to associate with your name? Your name. In other words, it's the whole thing of you determining as an owner, what is the one thing that you do better than anybody else in your business that only your company can do? And Richard, our viewers must understand, you have to decide that you're going to be me only and not me too. You got to nail down that one thing that you do, your onlyness, that will help define your unique value above the rest of the crowd, so you can now scale, move faster than you ever thought was possible, because we live in a brand conscious world. You either have a brand or you go bland. Are you with me?
Wow, I know, I'm with you. I just I'm absorbing all this stuff, and I really am, Jerry. I'm blown away. And again, I'm, kind of the behind the scenes guys. We talked about on the phone. We talked about some of this stuff, and I'm just actually blown away.
Oh, you're welcome. And Richard, between me too and me only is something called me special. And that's where you think you're different, but you're not relevant. And we have examples of great brands in America that came out as rock star, me only, one-of-a-kind brands that died on the vine because they lost their relevance. Does the name MySpace ring a bell? Who ever thought Blockbuster would go out of business?
No.
AOL.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started on the whole Sears.
Richard, what would be a great idea? I have this online assessment that I created, where people can go online and muscle test their brand, where they can take my quiz in 3 to 5 minutes, answer 25 quick questions. They'll give back a report so they can see where they're strong and where they're weak and where the missing pieces may be. So that's something that I'd like to offer to your viewers as well.
Exactly. How do we do that? I want to give people the opportunity. I mean, I know I have your personal phone number. How do we get all they have to do? I'd be glad to share that with people, but with your blessing, what is the number? What is the contact?
My cell is area code 310-382-6600. 6539, 310-382-6539, Pacific Time, California, right? Los Angeles. And if they text the word quiz along with their name, I will connect with them and get them set up to take it. I'll even throw in a brainstorming session, which I normally charge $500 for. I'll throw in a free brainstorming session so I can talk and kick around some ideas, because the brand is everything today.
That is really, no, that is very gracious of you, Jerry. Really, sincerely, I really appreciate that.
My pleasure.
And I will share this information with our audience. What should we be doing moving forward, looking to the future, if you would, the next couple of years? I'd appreciate some advice.
I know it's an old cliche, but either go big or go home. Nowadays, my friend, you've got to dream big, play big so you can have big. And that means that people really have to make that decision, that they're going to put something out into the world that will be hard for the world to ignore, that will make your name unforgettable. And when I say big, I don't mean that you want to be the next McDonald's or something. Big is whatever someone wants to define that. It can mean money. It could mean having a 6-figure business, 7 figures, or being a household brand name. All these incredible brands that we've been talking about started out as a small business. One person, maybe 2 or 3, had a dream, had a concept. So it's not reserved for a privileged few. And so our listeners and viewers can decide, what does big mean to you? It may not be about how much money you want to have. It's more about impact or feeling more fulfilled in the work that you do. But the fact of the matter is that unless you're standing out, you're blending in. And you've got to do all that you can today to get people to pay attention to you by them recognizing that you've got something that they want so badly because they can only get it from you. And if you're not putting out a brand in this brand conscious world that we live in, where if you go online, everyone's talking about their brand, celebrities talk about their brand, you go to the newspapers, you hear it everywhere, it's about your brand, your brand, your brand. So you're going to be left behind unless you make the decision to transform what you have to offer into something thrilling and original that people can get excited about, so that when you feed it into whatever marketing machinery you do down the line, your marketing can be more effective because you'll now require fewer impressions. So $1 works like $5, you get a bigger return on your marketing. So that's the biggest thing right now, Richard, is to make that decision that you are going to realize that your brand is in your control. Because I tell you this, unless you brand yourself, somebody else will. You tell people what you do and they will slot you. They'll put you into a box. You say, oh, I'm a real estate agent. They put you into the real estate pile. I'm a financial planner. I put you into the financial planning pile. I'm a life coach. Oh, God, another one of those. I put you in the life coaching pile. And so the key today is to seize control over how people perceive you, so that they see you as offering something that can make such a contribution, such a difference in their life. They'll want to work with you and buy what you have. And so it's, take that quiz that I'm throwing out there. You'll get some answers just from doing that alone.
Jerry, I gotta tell you two things. First of all, the thoughts that I keep having is the fact that we're doing this event online and we used to do it in person. And one of the things that I love about doing an in-person event is getting to meet people like yourself and networking and referrals and all that good stuff. But I don't know the next time that we're able to gather together. There's too many layers and too many other things that are happening.
Yeah.
But I want to say that I was able to meet you, connect with you via a mutual friend. We're doing this online. We overcame some obstacles to just even be here, to be able to have this and share this story. And the second part that I personally want to share with you is your enthusiasm. My takeaway, besides all the notes I took, was the next time I start to write something, I think I'm going to have to use words like thrilling and excitement. There's verbiage that you have when you're writing a script, and maybe I need to adjust my own thinking is what's thrilling and exciting. And, it's getting maybe back to the basics on stuff. So personally, I'm telling you, those were my takeaways so far during this conversation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess, thank you so much. Like I said earlier, avoid plain vanilla branding. I mean, no one should just be appearing as if they're just another tool in the shed or something. Everybody has something special. And I think what happens, Richard, and this is, I'm going to guess this is what you're getting to. It's hard to read the label when you're inside the bottle. It's hard to see yourself in the picture frame. And sometimes it requires someone like me to say something or to point something out in just one word or one phrase, or light someone up to realize, whoa, that's an aha moment, right? That light bulb moment. And that in itself can just start to move that dial so that you can do what? Turn up the volume on your revenue, fatten your bank account. And I'll tell you this, Richard, let me tell you, there are folks out there right now creating million-dollar, multi-million-dollar brands within 12 months to 2 years, just using the principles and methods and approaches that I just shared with you, because they understand the power of having the strongest brand possible. So good for you. And who can't be excited about that? Because you know what you've done, Richard, that's so great? You have just created a whole new possibility for yourself. A new future to step into. Oh, look at that smile. I see you.
I seriously, yeah. I'm not sure if you could see the smoke coming out of my ears because my brain's working. I mean this sincerely, Jerry. I want to thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon. I have your contact information. I'm sure some of the people are seeing it on the lower thirds here. But I wanted to give you the final word for this afternoon.
Well, one thing I do want to share, because someone once asked me, well, Jerry, if people connect with your office, am I going to get some assistant? No, you're going to get me. So all of you out there, when you text me, you're going to have a follow-up connection with me, okay? And then secondly, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm a giver, not a taker. So this is not some kind of setup for a sales pitch. I don't do that. I don't need to do that. But I just want to say one final word, and that is, it's all your choice. Your future can be better than your past. What's coming can be better than what's behind you. It's your time to be on top, not on the bottom, to be the head and not the tail, so that next week can be better than last week, knowing that the worst is behind you and the best is in front of you. And that starts with your brand, your identity. You've got to make sure that you do what I call eat your vegetables. This stuff that I'm talking about, it's not glamorous, because this requires some thinking to dig into you, those magnificent parts of you that allows you to be who you were created to be. And for those of you who are spiritual out there, because remember, they do call me the branding evangelist. In order for your God to get a blessing to you, he's got to be able to bless others through you. And the only way he can bless others through you is if no other business sounds like you or looks like you, because you are perpetually rare. You are not off the shelf. There is nothing that suggests that you are off the rack, off the shelf. You are designer made. And the fact that you're tuning in to Richard's show, this incredible conference that he's put together, that says a lot to me about you. So it's your time to step out there, do some things you've never done before, so that you can have some things in your life that you've never had before, the kind of lifestyle you want, the kind of money perhaps you want, to be able to do the things that you want to do. And that starts with having the strongest brand possible. A big brand that can make big things happen, even if your budget is small.
Buenos días a todos. My name is Tara Lynn Gray. I am the director of the Office of the Small Business Advocate, which is in the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. Our office, Cal OSBA, serves as the principal advocate in the state on behalf of small businesses, representing their views and interests, disseminating information to them, and advising on state programs and regulations. And prior to my appointment by the governor, I was the chief executive officer of the Fresno Metro Black Chamber of Commerce and Chamber Foundation, where I reorganized a small nonprofit into a community-based enterprise with a budget just over $10 million. And as a small business advocate in that role, I was keenly focused on coalition building, policy, and inclusive economic growth for local entrepreneurs and small businesses.
Wow. I know that before we started recording, we were talking off camera. I have been very active with Hispanic chambers of commerce. I'm well aware of some of the fight and struggles. So I'm so happy to see that you're in the position. And as I understand it, you just started back in April. Wow. That's my wow comment. But number two, what a time to be starting this job. I hope you're extremely excited about it, because what a challenge and what an opportunity to really succeed.
It is a challenge, and frankly, it's an honor to be appointed to the governor into this position. I have been a lifelong advocate for small business, so I bring a lot of street experience, if you will, to the position. I know what it's like to provide technical assistance services. I've been a small business owner myself. And small business owners, as I always say, put their entire life into their small businesses. It is the way that they feed their families. It is the way that they send their children to college. It is the way that they plan for their retirement, take care of their parents, and all of the other things that all of us human beings want to do to have some quality of life. So I am directly, personally, and passionately connected to the Cal OSBA mission, which is to really support economic growth and innovation in California. We work to ensure that California's small businesses and entrepreneurs have the resources they need to start up, to connect to capital, to connect to new markets, and to grow their businesses.
What is going to be your priorities over the next few months, especially as California businesses start to reopen?
You know, that is a good question. In alignment with Governor Newsom's focus on building a California for all, my office is committed to creating an inclusive entrepreneurial and small business ecosystem that eliminates opportunity gaps across regions, zip codes, race, and gender. You know, our charter has 3 primary objectives that are missionally aligned. We're a resource provider, as I mentioned earlier. We're providing easily accessible information, training, consulting, tools for small businesses and entrepreneurs. We are an advocate, as our name implies, by serving as the voice of small business and entrepreneurship across the state. We're in a position to advocate for the special needs and the special priorities of small businesses, which we know are very, very different than those of large businesses. So we are convening experts, we are addressing barriers, and partnering with private sector organizations to create market solutions for problems that our small businesses face. And then, you know, lastly, we are very focused strategically on advancing resilience, because I have said this recently. We have to face the fact that COVID-19 is not going to be the last threat that we experience. And my office will continue to make resiliency a core priority, expanding business resilience and supporting disaster recovery in every way that we can. So we're committed to taking, swift action and being courageous in protecting our residents and our small businesses in this state.
With your chamber background and your entrepreneur background, I know that introducing people, connecting people with resources just probably comes second nature to you. Is there some resources right now that the state of California is offering small businesses that, quite frankly, we're not taking advantage of now that you've been in the position for a little bit? Is there a trend that you're seeing and that you really want to bring some of those resources to light and basically shake up some of these small businesses and say, what is the matter with you? These resources are available.
Well, Richard, you make a solid point there, is that the closed mouth does not get fed, right? We have heard overwhelmingly about access to capital, right? And we know that there are certain groups of folks that don't get the access to capital that they need. But one of the things that we recognize in my office is that it's not just about capital. We also need to emphasize building strong small businesses through their development and increasing revenue streams. And so to that end, Cal OSBA focuses on access to government marketplaces and private supply chains to support small business in state procurement issues. It's one thing to get the capital to start, but you've got to have a solid business case, and you've got to be able to generate the contracts that support the income and help you grow, add jobs, and become a solid local employer.
Several of our honorees this year are in the restaurant industry and the food service industry. Can you talk a little bit about the workforce? They're having trouble reopening because of the workforce. So if you're comfortable with answering that question or talking about that subject, I would appreciate your insights.
So let me just generally first say that we've got to recognize that we've got 4.1 million small businesses here in the state of California. They represent 99.8% of all businesses in the state, right? And they employ 7.2 million workers. That's about 50% of the state's total workforce. So when we think about who's working, who's not, where they're working, where they're not, we've got to recognize that 50% of those folks are working in a small business. So it can't be lost on us that California clearly has a very, very strong small business sector that is creating jobs. I also want to underscore that due to great policy here in California, we've given small businesses the tools necessary to create quality jobs, right? We have a retirement program that's independent of the employer through CalSavers. We have a healthcare program that's independent of employers through Covered California. We have a paid leave program, independent. So we have created a structure here that provides benefits to employees that are not tied to the employer. That gives our employers great flexibility and latitude. And I think that it gives them also the freedom to continue to innovate in the manner in which we have seen the restaurant industry innovate. I think they have frankly been at the cutting edge of that during the pandemic, seeing many of them pivot to takeout only, and this development really of the convenience economy. I mean, takeout is no longer what takeout used to be. It's a totally different beast, totally different animal, supplanted by technology. So I venture to say that, some of the employment downtick, if you will, or the trouble that restaurants are having is really realignment of that workforce and realignment of needs and priorities.
Once again, takeout isn't what it used to be. I actually kind of enjoy the meal and bringing it home, and it's a do. Actually, I'd lie and tell my wife that I actually made that meal, but as an advocate, I'm wondering if you'll share some advice. I know you've been sharing bits and pieces here, but is there a bit of advice, actually words of encouragement to some of these businesses that are surviving to thrive?
Surviving to thrive. I like the way that you said that, because that implies uptick, that implies hope, that implies positivity, and most importantly, a solid economic recovery. And I know that that is a priority for Governor Newsom. It is certainly a priority for my office. And I think that Governor Newsom has shown that in his comeback plan, right, where he is boldly recommending investments in our small businesses and in that recovery. For starters, that additional $1.5 billion that he has requested for the California Relief Grant Program, that's providing grants $5,000 to $25,000 for our smallest and our hardest hit businesses that are earning revenues under $2.5 million a year. Significant. That investment would take this program to $4 billion in direct grants, the largest of its kind in the nation. So California continues to lead. What advice do I give our small businesses? Our small businesses need to continue to live, to fight another day. It is a fight in pursuit of the California dream. And there are resources in my office. You can reach us on business.ca.gov. Go to the Office of the Small Business Advocate on the menu. We have a network of technical assistance partners, and those partners are located throughout the state of California. They have tremendous resources. Classes, consulting, can tie you to specific vertical market expertise. We have iBank, we have the California Rebuilding Fund. We have tremendous resources. And back to what I said earlier, the closed mouth does not get fed. So reach out, whether it's close, whether it's far, we're online, we're an email, a phone call away. Don't sit in your office, in your storefront, or if you're one of the 50% of small businesses that are working from home, do not sit there without reaching out to the partners that have the answers and the resources to help you grow and scale your business.
Well, again, congratulations on your new position. Without a doubt, convinced that you are going to do a great job traveling up and down the state of California and helping out our business community. I'd like to thank you for participating in our BizCon 2021. And I'll leave you with the final word, if you will.
Thank you. Muchísimas gracias.
Raíces means roots, but it also means heritage, culture. We are a minority-owned business. It's not easy for us to go into any industry, especially a brewing industry that has a large barrier to entry, and Wells Fargo opened the doors for us.
Jose had a dream. He knew what he wanted to do. He just needed some help putting things together. When we went out to visit, it was almost like an empty warehouse. So with SBA, we were able to help him completely redo the inside, and now it's an amazing, beautiful brewery.
Good afternoon, John. How are you? Off camera, we were talking about you just came back from Cancun. Is that how you're finishing off this pandemic and opening up a new chapter in for 2021?
Yeah, I felt like it was time. Hadn't been on a real good trip since the pandemic started, of course. And for me, a good week on a beach is relaxation and recuperation. So that worked well. So it was good. And it was just like the old days, the airport was crowded, the plane was crowded. The hotel wasn't too bad, but it was fun. It was good to get away. And I can kind of considered it practice retirement. I'm trying to get into the retirement mode. Okay.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but before your retirement, you're getting ready to open up the museum, if you will. And how is that going? And when is it happening? And what do you have planned for the plaza?
Sure. We've been closed since the pandemic started consecutively. So from about March 19th, when LA County entered the yellow tier, we opened around April 15th. So it was over a year of being closed, and a museum without visitors is like a restaurant without patrons. We've got great stuff on the walls that nobody can see. So when we got into the yellow tier here in LA County, we began a phased opening, which included reservations, testing, and so forth. And that's worked out well. So we had been partially open. We reduced our operating hours from Thursday to Sunday. And we've had, a building response to that. So people have been coming back. And now with the full state reopening on June 15th, we won't have any capacity limits. So we'll be open to full capacity. We'll probably go back to our regular schedule, which means we'll only be closed on Tuesdays. And we're also scheduling a very robust menu of events starting in July. So we'll have a full summer of concerts and festivals and talks and movie screenings and other programs as we've done in the past. So we're very excited to see that coming back too.
You guys were doing some extremely innovative things. Do you feel as though they've kind of set you up for what a future experience is going to be at your location?
Yeah, very much so, because what happened was we had just set up a very interesting exhibit of the works of Carlos Almaraz, who's one of our more renowned Chicano artists. And we had an opening reception scheduled for that on the night that the governor announced the state closing. Okay, so we canceled that the week before, but because the lockdown went into effect that day, we had to think fast. And what we did, Richard, borrowing a page from your book, is we decided to do a live Zoom stream of that. Okay. On Zoom and Facebook, actually. And, we had no experience doing that. We had only learned what Zoom was, I think, a week before. So it was very much a learning curve, but it went off well. And it was a very good experience where we had our curator and Carlos's wife, Elsa, here with us. And they walked through the exhibit, and we followed them around with our camera, and we kept tripping over cords. but it worked out okay. So based on that, and based on the response that we received, we decided to do that more often, and we created a program called En Casa con la Plaza that's hosted by our marketing director, Abelardo de la Peña Jr. And we started doing that in early April. And we decided we were just going to go out and do that full board. So we initiated that 3 times a week. So we have been doing that continually since April. So we're close to about 175 programs that we've done since then. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but the other thing was we wanted to keep our visibility going. We wanted to have a platform where we could showcase all of the varied talent in our community, whether they're actors or musicians or chefs or academic types or community people. We have so much talent in our community that we have the show booked ahead, generally a month ahead of time. So it's gone really well. We've had a great response to that. And what it's also doing on the side is, of course, archiving those great stories that live on now and are accessible on our YouTube page. So we always have those stories that we can go back to. So we've had, I think our first guest was Gustavo Ariano from the Times. We then brought in Dan Guerrero to do a program twice a month. And Dan has brought us great people like Linda Ronstadt, and Louis Perez, and Cheech, and Edward James Olmos, and Lucy Arnaz, and many, many others. So that's done really well. And then we also created a weekly cooking program as part of that segment. And that's hosted by our Director of Programs and Culinary Arts, Elena Martin. So we do that every Monday afternoon. And we feature a lot of the top chefs, not only here from the Southern California area, but we've had chefs participate from throughout Mexico. So that's gone really well too. So that's one example of what we've done on the digital side. And that's opened up a much wider audience for us, and also a national and international audience for us too. The other guy we've worked with as well, so I don't forget him, is Beto Arcos, who's a great musicologist. And Beto hosts a program about once a month that features some top entertainers from here or from Latin America.
As you're reopening, are you going to continue on those programs? And then thinking about opening, is there a cost? I've always meant to ask you that. Is there a cost to attend and look at the exhibits and some of the special events that you have?
For the most part, we're a free museum. So admission is free. So people are welcome to come. And there's no admission fee for them and their family. They're welcome to make a donation if they'd like. Most of our programming is free throughout the year. And again, this summer, we have family days, which offer a lot of activities for the kids on a Sunday afternoon. Those are free. We do movie screenings. This year, we're going to do everybody's favorite screening of Selena, and that will include a live band. We're inviting people to come dressed as Selena. So that'll be a lot of fun. We're also going to screen the Carlos Almaraz documentary that's been playing on Netflix. And we'll have a panel discussion with that with some of Carlos's colleagues that he worked with back in the day. We also do a summer salsa series. So we'll have 3 salsa concerts this year. And people come out and dance the night away out there, and those are free as well too. So most of our programming is free of charge. So we like to think of ourselves as a Latino or Latinx cultural hub that brings people together. We do have some events that are paid. We have people who bring in events and use the site as a rentals venue. Bel Hernandez will be doing Latina Fest again coming up this summer. We'll have a concert with El Gran Combo from Puerto Rico coming back for their second tour. They're now, I think, in their 49th or 50th year of performing, considering the greatest band out of Puerto Rico of all time, and one of the best salsa groups of all time. A lot of fun. They're great, great fun. So we're happy to have them back again too. So yeah, we'll have a full slate of summer activities, which we've just about finalized. So we'll be posting that on our social media channels very soon. And we, welcome, encourage, invite people to come out and enjoy all that.
I forgot, what website is that again?
That website would be lapca.org.
Perfect. Hey, I want to kind of finish up our conversation with talking about, I think it was back in 2014, we recognized VPE as a survived and thrived business. We're broadcasting this on our BizCon 2021 event. And just a few weeks ago, I found out that you're going to make yet another transition. What is it? Riding into the sunset? Is this for sure this time, or are you really going to retire?
This is it. I have, was with VPE we had VPE for about 26 years or so, and I really enjoyed the work that we did there on behalf of all of our various clients, from McDonald's to Disneyland to Target, and many, many others through the years. Then I moved here in 2014, so it'll be 7 years in September. But I've gotten to the point in my life now where I just think it's time to drop mic and just sit back and relax a little bit. So that's the plan. I have one grandson in Santa Barbara who will be 2 this month. So I like to spend a little more time with him, and just learned Sunday that I have another one coming out in Maryland with my other son. So we'll have the 2 to take care of now, to keep an eye on and spend as much time with as I can. So it's been, I really enjoyed the work here. I could do this forever, but looking forward to what I'm calling mindful aimlessness for a while. And I'll see how long that lasts. And when I get bored of doing nothing, then I'll, maybe look for some other activities to get involved in. I'm not sure what, but just time to make that transition now.
Well, I'm sure lots of people are saying this to you. I know you've been an inspiration to many people in the public relations field. I like to read those comments that people post on various social media. But hey, John, I want to thank you so much for spending some time this afternoon. And hey, I'm going to give you the final word. Is there anything you want to plug? Is there any words of wisdom you would like to share with us? John, you got the mic. Before you drop the mic, you have the mic.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I would just welcome people to come to La Plaza now that we're open in person. If you can't do it in person, do it over the internet. Not only do we have our In Casa program, but we also have a Saturday program called En Familia, which is as it implies, designed for school-age children with some great activities for them. We've also moved most of our exhibits to a digital format too. So you can actually see what's on the walls here in the comfort of your own home. So it's just, I think the main lesson of La Plaza and our main purpose for being is to have a greater appreciation of our culture, of our accomplishments, so that as we like to say, we honor that past and we inspire the future by learning about where we've been and getting some sense of where we're going to.
Again, John, thank you. And thank you for all the conversations we've had over the years. So appreciate it.
Okay, Richard, good to see you. Thanks for having me here. It's been a pleasure.
Well, hello, my name is Diana Rodriguez. I'm currently the president of San Bernardino Valley College. Have been the president over the past 5 years, serving San Bernardino, Rialto, and Colton, those communities there through our college. And soon, on August 1st, I will be the new chancellor for the San Bernardino Community College District, which will also then help serve Redlands and the Yucaipa communities, as well as Highland, Loma Linda, and everywhere in between.
And I'm not trying to be light of it, but really, you applied for this job and you really sought it. And I think I saw the quote, this is actually going to be your dream job.
It is. You know, I moved to the Inland Empire when I was 18, 19 years old. Transferred here to go to school. Cal State San Bernardino, and truly just fell in love with the community and the entire region. You know, I don't know of another place where the people are as warm and inviting and as welcoming as a community as they were to me the entire time that I've been here. And so it really is a dream job, a blessing to be able to help lead the district in this capacity, and lead it with our board of trustees and our other leaders throughout the district. So I'm very excited about the position.
I really want to ask you a couple of very serious questions. We're looking at a post-pandemic economy and education. Is there any thoughts that you can share with us about what that may look like in the next couple of years, especially for these for the community colleges?
Yeah, you know, the pandemic, you know, I think caught all of education off guard. You know, our district alone to move, you know, over 20,000 students to a remote learning environment was no small feat. And, you know, kudos to our faculty and our classified professionals who really turned our campus into remote learning in a 3-week period. Full complement of instructional courses and services. So, you know, they did a remarkable job. And, you know, California has long been known for its, you know, innovation and robust economy, you know, demographic diversity, the quality of life here that we have. And I honestly believe that the Inland Empire and the success of the Inland Empire, right, is crucial to California's future. Our true potential lies in all of our people here within our region, particularly our students, who are going to be our next generation of workers and leaders in our community. You know, I look forward, you know, as I mentioned, to serving as, you know, chancellor of the San Bernardino Community College District. You know, we're serving well over 20,000 students between Crafton Hills College and San Bernardino College. You know, and I recognize, you know, as you mentioned, entering at a critical time when families and students are doing their best to bounce back from the pandemic, both educationally and economically. You know, in talking with our students and in surveying our students and so on during this time of the pandemic, you know, many of students, they paused their education, right, to take care of their families and so on. And unfortunately, many of them lost their jobs during the pandemic and made difficult choices, right? Do I stay in school or do I care for my family? Do I put food on the table? You know, and so those are the things that the college wants to help students with, those things. You know, and meanwhile, on top of that, many of our students who are working, right, they're working those essential worker positions, right? They're responding to wildfires. There are grocery clerks in the grocery stores. They're working in the warehouses. They're delivering goods, you know, to households. You know, they've kept things running during what I would suggest would be the darkest hours of the pandemic, right? So that others could stay home and be safe. So helping these students helping these essential Californians, if you will, right, earn degrees, credentials, and provide them opportunities to earn a livable wage job here within our district. That really is one of my highest priorities, as a president and as an incoming chancellor. Yeah, but we also recognize, Richard, that we can't do this alone, right? So our vision is to strengthen our partnerships with businesses and industries as we come out of this pandemic, right? To prepare our students for what's next, right? I was talking with a couple of vice presidents of a vice president of an engineering firm, and he was talking about how he really needs to rethink the way they do business, rethink how they're going to connect with their customers and their workers, right? How they're going to communicate with them, because the world is going to be so much different post-pandemic. And
well, not to stop you there, but you were literally addressing the next question I was going to have, is that I think as entrepreneurs and again, students going into school and getting this education at one point in time, they were thinking about going into a specific industry, and that industry may not look the same post-pandemic. And
right.
So I understand that the community colleges, San Bernardino Valley College in particular, they have programs that will assist the business owners to help either train or retrain their employees. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's actually something that I'm really quite proud of, that program that we have. And, it's probably one of our best kept secrets, right, within the district. But we do more than just award associate degrees and transfer students to various four-year schools. We have a department within our district that is 100% dedicated, in working with businesses to help meet their workforce and training needs. So at our district, we call this our Economic Development and Corporate Training Division, right? EdCT for short. We partner with small, medium, and large businesses to help retrain their employees. And some of the names of the organizations that we work with, I'm sure you'll recognize, Richard, and in the audience, we've worked with Coca-Cola Bottling Company, Mattel, 3M, Goodyear Rubber, Amazon, Walmart, and I can go on and on, among others. And every business is different, right? So we take pride in having our representatives meet with the companies and their executives to tailor a customized training program for their employees that will be specific to meet their needs, right? And once we do this assessment and determine the type of training that their employees will need, we send out our employees to teach these real world skills, right? Communication and teamwork skills, computer skills, conflict resolution skills, literacy skills, management, and so on, right? And right now, we have about 72 businesses across the Inland Empire that we work with. And we've provided those 72 business with about 6,500 skills training classes for their employees. We take it very, very seriously, and we're proud of the work that we do with these companies. And our business partners, they tell us it's particularly hard to attract skilled and qualified workers, especially during the pandemic, right? And that's where our program comes in, right? We can help businesses retrain their existing labor force so that they can rebound from the pandemic as quickly as they want to, and in using folks within our community. So very proud of the work that they do at EdCT.
I just want to be clear, if somebody in our audience really wants to connect, do I give them your phone number and you'll handle them directly?
I wish that were the case. I wish that were the case.
No, but I'm sure that you would definitely help guide them.
Absolutely. We have, fantastic professionals on staff. Can't say enough about the work of Deanna Crayful and Wendy Lester, just two of the head folks within that program. But let me give you a number in case there's anybody listening that is interested. And that is 909-382-4086. And they can also reach us on our website at www.sbccd.edu and just look for the icon for the Economic Development Corporate Training position.
I know it's getting late in the afternoon, but I definitely want to ask you this question. And that is, can you somewhat look into a crystal ball, especially with all that information that you have, forecasting information? What are you seeing in the future, the next couple of years, specifically for the Inland Empire, how important education is? What's the potential job market look like for students wanting to enter community college?
I was looking at a study that was put out by our Student Aid Commission, and it found that 7 out of 10 students lost some or all of their income during the economic shift of this pandemic. Those numbers are huge. 7 out of 10, 70%. Our message to those students and to their families is, please don't give up on your education, right? And give us the opportunity to help you pay for that education. We want to do that for our for our community. And we have a generous financial aid system, which nearly about 8 out of 10 of all of our students that attend either one of our colleges, they come to us having to pay $0 in tuition fees. Our students get cash for college when they apply for the free application for federal student aid, commonly known as the FAFSA. We are also very much dedicated to helping our undocumented students receive funding. And so when they fill out the California DREAM Act application, right, they're also entitled to the same benefits as students. We also have a very robust scholarship programs at both of our institutions to help students. The pandemic has also taught us that online learning, right, is not for everyone. Our students value the hands-on learning and collaboration that takes place inside the classroom, right, with their peers and their instructors. So what we're doing is we're preparing right now to have a very safe return to in-person instruction, right? So in August, we're opening up many of our classrooms to have students come back. And for those students who are, hesitant to come back and want to stay remote learning, we're providing those opportunities as well. And more broadly, the pandemic also has reinforced our belief, right? And it's something that I've been saying for the 5 years that I've been here. We are the community's college, right? We want our community to come join us at the institution. We want our community to come get their education with us and allow us to help them reach their goals and be able to support their families right here in the Inland Empire.
Quickly, is there an industry that you're seeing that, I know you have a great paramedic program. I know you have other skilled programs that you offer as well. Healthcare, I have to assume, is going to be a big industry as well, too. But is there an industry that you, if I'm a student out there and I'm trying to figure out what it is I want to do with my life? Of course, I'm a grown man still trying to figure out what I want to do with my life, but that's another conversation. Is there any direction, any advice that you would give that student and or their parents to pass on as far as that goes?
Absolutely. I would advise a student to make an appointment, either in person or remotely, with any one of our academic or career counselors to kind of really talk through what their interests are. And those professionals can provide them information to either clarify what those careers actually entail, right? So that the student gets a true knowledge of what that is. We have phenomenal programs across both campuses. You mentioned a few of them. Our nursing program, amazing. The fire science and EMT program at Crafton Hills College is just amazing. In fact, recently, we just went through our accreditation visit. And we were able to score the highest accreditation rating possible for a community college in our area. Ourselves and Crafton Hills College were the only two colleges within California that attained that high degree of accreditation status. And what that tells us is that any one of our programs that we offer at either of our institution is of the highest quality. So students really can't go wrong with the discipline that they choose.
Well, again, I want to congratulate you on your new position that you'll be taking. And I wish you a lot of luck. And it sounds like you're ready for the job.
Well, thank you, Rich. I appreciate that. And thank you for inviting me to your show. Appreciate that.
I'm Julian Canetti. I'm president and CEO of the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce. The chamber is a statewide organization of over 105 local Hispanic chambers and diverse business associations throughout the state, representing Hispanic business, over 815,000 Hispanic businesses, of course, but also small business in general as well.
How are the Hispanic Chambers of Commerce doing in the state of California?
Hispanic chambers throughout California, I think are growing. Through the state chamber, one of our priorities is building capacity within our local chambers, because we understand that they're where the rubber meets the road, and they're the ones that are able to provide direct services to our constituents out there. So we've been doing a lot to improve the capabilities of our local chambers, from leadership programming to programming on fund development, volunteer management, et cetera. So again, we're seeing our chambers grow. We're seeing more participation from our chambers. We just recently engaged our chambers in the California Relief Grant Program, and where we did some re-granting, and we had almost, over 50% of them participate in that program, which I think is important for us to show, because now we're showing how effective our chambers are as being an outreach tool out there in the community, and being able to communicate not just to the business community, but the community as a whole.
I know one of the things the organization does extremely well is advocacy. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about, I personally believe now more than ever, we need somebody talking to our elected officials, explaining our story, advocating for us as small businesses. Can you talk a little bit about your activities in that area?
Sure, but let me start with, advocacy is from the local level, at your local city council, school boards, all the way up to state legislator, all the way to Washington, D.C. and Congress. So we've been doing a lot of work on educating and training our chambers to be advocates, especially at that local level. Now at the state level, there's a lot of stuff going on, as you said, from still regulating business and putting some onerous regulations on small business, but also, with the COVID pandemic, also we're still concentrating on recovery efforts to assist our businesses. And, one of those things that we advocated for was the California Relief Grant. We had told the governor and the legislature that last thing our businesses need to do is be put further in debt, right? I think this low interest loan is fine, but, and a year later, they've got to pay it off, start paying it. And we kept on arguing that one of the things that we needed was grants, forgivable grants or forgivable loans for our small businesses. So again, that's I think where we were effective in advocating. And the governor had gotten $2 billion, plus he's now got another $1.5 billion that's pending on the budget to be approved. Again, for the California Relief Grant, we advocated for the California Rebuilding Fund, where the state put up $100 million for that loan program to be leveraged with a public-private partnership. But then there's also just the regulations that just make it hard to do business in California. And we continue to fight those. We continue to bring them to the attention of the the legislators, but we have the bad with the good. So, but we keep the fight up, and we continue to support those bills that we feel are good and grow our small businesses in California.
We have an ongoing theme with our BizCon event. I know you've participated with them in the past in person, but the ongoing theme is surviving to thrive. Can you give me a little bit of a state of Hispanic businesses right now? And hopefully it's an optimistic point of view.
Yeah, I think so. I think, we've been working with businesses throughout the state on getting number one through the pandemic, right? But more importantly, is really concentrating on how do we continue to make them successful even after the pandemic. We've learned a lot from the pandemic, some of the things that are missing with our business owners, and so again, that's where we've started to concentrate. How do we make our businesses more resilient? Not just in just this pandemic or disasters, but in future years when we don't know what's going to hit, right? Whether it's a fire, whether it's an earthquake, whatever it may be. So I think Hispanic business has been very optimistic about the through this pandemic. As we talk to businesses, they are seeing business picking up. From the restaurants to other businesses. We've talked to businesses saying, "Hey, we're doing better now than we did 2 years ago, a year ago." So again, Hispanic business is just very resilient, as you know, Richard. And they get a roadblock in front of them, they just knock it down, climb over it, or go around it, right? But they continue to grow. Hispanics are still the fastest growing segment of small business as well.
I know you guys have some upcoming events. Can you talk a little bit about that? But before you mention that, how does one become a member of a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce? The question I used to always get asked was, do you need to be Hispanic to be a member of a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce?
As we've said, no need to habla, right? The Hispanic chambers are open to everybody. We just did our LGBTQ plus initiative this week as well to be, again, more inclusive. And I'm proud to say that the Hispanic Chamber networks, the state chamber and our local chambers, before it was hip to do inclusivity, we were doing it, right? We were welcoming women. We were welcoming the LGBT community. Within the state chamber network, we've got a diverse group of chambers as well, Asian and African American, Indian, South Asian Indian, et cetera. So, we've been practicing that whole concept. But, if someone wants to become a member and get the benefits of the state chamber, all you got to do is join your local chamber. In Inland Empire, we've got the Greater Riverside Chamber. We've got the chamber in Corona. We've got the Coachella Chamber now out there as well, Inland Empire, Regional Chamber. So again, if you join a local chamber, you get their benefits, plus you get all of our benefits that we provide them as well.
I know you mentioned two things that are near and dear to my heart, being located in the inland region, the Inland Empire and the Coachella Valley.
Sure.
So do you guys have any activities coming up in the next few months in my particular area?
Sure. In July, we'll be down there in Coachella Valley. We'll be in Indian Wells, and we'll be having a board meeting there. And we'll have a kickoff reception for our annual convention, which actually is going to be held there in the Palm Springs area, September 9th through the 12th. And I invite everybody to participate there. If they want more information, they can go to www.cahcc.com for more registration area. But we have a number of other events coming up that are being scheduled out, such as procurement workshops, our Elevate program, where we are working to make businesses, not just to introduce them to contracting opportunities, but making sure our businesses, our Hispanic businesses or our diverse businesses are also competitive, right? I've told our team that we can certify businesses, for contracts, and they could have all the qualifications, but our businesses need to be competitive. to be able to win that contract, because some of these contracts are won by a couple $100. So, our procurement program called Elevate really concentrates on making those businesses much more competitive. And that'll be coming to the Inland Empire in a couple months. We're just trying to secure a location and some dates.
I know we're a little bit limited on time, but I wanted to give you the last word, and I'm going to put you on the spot here. Can you give a little piece of advice? You've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this a long time. But what is that piece of advice that just really has been able to sustain itself throughout the many years we've been doing this, that you feel comfortable sharing with business owners and professionals, and of course our colleagues?
Why we do what we do. And I think, I won't say when Richard and I first met and how long we've known each other, but it's been a long time, right, Richard? But I think for guys like us, Richard, it's a love, right? It's a love of saying, how can we help the business community, right? How can we educate the business community? How can we make them better? So many of our businesses sometimes lack knowledge, and companies like yours, programs like yours, bring that knowledge to them, and that's just what the chamber does too. And I think that's what we all love the most is being able to know that we brought a little bit more knowledge to our business owners that will make them a little bit more successful in what they do. But for guys like you and I, as you know, this is a true love. That's why we're still engaged in what we do. Me with the chambers, you with Hispanic lifestyle. I mean, it's a love for it, right? But I think the bottom line is the love and the commitment to helping small businesses and helping our communities and making a better quality life in California in general.
Well, again, thank you so much for spending some time with me this afternoon. And
always
good luck to you in the future, man. Appreciate it.
And we'll be seeing you down there. We always look forward to seeing what's new on Hispanic lifestyle. And of course, with your BizCon events and your other events, they're fantastic venues, for businesses to go to and learn and learn how to be more successful and what is happening, new trends, et cetera. So we appreciate what you do as well, Richard.
Hey, thanks again, Julian. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
Hispanic Lifestyle is now pleased to present our 2021 Executives of Influence listing. Peter Villegas.
Every place I've worked at has really been very supportive of my strategy to connect properly with with our markets, whether it's Orange County, California, or Orange County, Florida to New York, and everywhere in between, but just understanding the elements of those markets, which I've been able to do, and then making sure the company is engaged properly. I think I've been able to do that because I'm the youngest of 7 boys. So growing up the youngest of 7, you learn to adapt very quickly. So I've been able to do that. I think another key thing for me, I was always in the major market of Southern California. Regardless of the company or industry, California, and particularly Southern California, is the major market. So there's a lot of activity. And to be able to be in a major market with a lot of activity, you get the experience, you get the connections, you get the involvement, you get a lot of benefits. And at that time, fast forward to American Savings Bank, we were acquired by Washington Mutual in 1996, I think, which was the first that kicked off years of banking mergers and acquisitions. And it was a tremendous experience for me because my responsibilities were to go into these markets across the country and get the approval of the regulators, the community, political, and help these mergers go through even faster.
Andy Carrasco.
The state of California has some very aggressive climate change goals, the reduction of greenhouse gases and pollutants. And I think one of those things that it's going to take the entire state and those who are consumers, utilities, and others to really address. And one of the thoughts that is being thrown out there is really eliminating natural gas and the usage of the production of electricity, transportation, and even the building sector. We are looking at ways to make sure that folks are educating, beginning with our regulators, beginning with our elected officials at the state level, at the local level, to say, hold on, there is no secret one path silver bullet to this. I think if we really have to address the issue of climate change and greenhouse gas reduction, we got to take it all on, meaning all of us have to be able to bring to the table what we can all do to bring attention and reduction of that goal, quite simply put. And I don't have to tell you that, last week, and even prior to that, it was a perfect storm. You had fire season upon us, right? You've seen the wildfire. You've seen the rolling blackouts. You've seen the rolling blackouts that haven't occurred, by the way, Richard, in 2 decades, for 20 years. And we've seen cloud cover, where we know that the renewable energy space along solar and wind is very important, and we support it. But we know when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow, you still need to be able to flip that switch, right? And so what we're saying is that we are part of the solution and not part of the problem. We can address the carbonization of our fuel, and we're doing that, by the way. Very exciting things happening along the renewable natural gas. Think about that. Collecting renewable gas that normally is going to go up to atmosphere, which is methane, is what we're talking about, right? Capturing it and using it as energy.
Wendy Pineda.
Believe it or not, I started when I was 11 years old. I was an entertainment reporter, the youngest in my hometown. I was born in the United States. The family joke is that me and my brother are the Mexicans of Beverly Hills because we were born there. But we were raised in Mexico. And at a very young age, I had the little spark into entertainment when it came down to news reporting. And that's how my career started. I was 11 years old and had the opportunity to interview people like Lucero, Mijares, Miguel Rios. The list goes on of all the artists that I interviewed. From there, one crazy day, I saw that there was a correspondent for my hometown for Televisa Mexico for 24 Horas with Jacobo Ludowski. And I went and interviewed, and they thought they were going to receive a college graduate, and this 14-year-old girl walks into the office. And that's where my career started for television. I ended up with the local television news department in my hometown when I was 14. And I started from the news. That also, they had television production. They had radio. So I dived into those departments as well, besides the news department. And from there, I moved to Mexico City when I was 16 and became the youngest editor for Televisa Mexico. I recorded Luis Miguel en el Auditorio Nacional. I recorded Daniela, sorry, I'm going to cut there. I recorded Luis Miguel en el Auditorio Nacional. I recorded
Michael Ocasio.
I'm a reformed banker. You knew me during my banking days, and I fell into economic development while I was a banker. I'm originally from, well, as you know, I'm just a dumb Puerto Rican kid from the Bronx. And I wound up in the land of honey and fruit here in California. I was recruited by Bank of America out of school, and I started in the bank's training program. And I was sort of raised on the credit side of the house in the bank, on the lending side, doing commercial industrial lending to small and medium-sized companies and commercial real estate lending, that sort of thing. And I banked these development corporations during my tenure at B of A. And I sort of segued or transitioned into economic development back in 2001. if you will. But as I said, I am from the East Coast originally, and I live here in the Inland Empire, the city of Redlands. I'm one of the founders. I helped create the organization back in 2001. Our program, if you will, has been around since the 60s, since 1968. So it's been around a very long time. And we were part of a larger nonprofit organization, a certified development company that gave birth to the organization. And we succeeded from that group in 2007. And again, there were 12 when we first started out. We have 7 of these development corporations are also called, under the California Financial Code, Financial Development Corporations, or FTCs is the acronym that we use. We're all 501c3s. We're nonprofit or quasi-public-private nonprofit, in that we're a 501c3. We accept donations and grants from banks and investors. But our public side, if you will, is that we have authority to leverage public dollars. And we use that authority to fund credit to companies that maybe cannot obtain mainstream credit through a commercial bank or a credit union or a community development financial institution, something along those lines. And we could guarantee the credit transaction for the lender.
Edward R. DeBoo.
I am responsible for the day-to-day operation, including design, implementation, and other strategy for the organization. I also serve as the principal consultant and advisor to Fortune 1000 corporation to optimize their corporate performance. I collaborate with corporations to elevate their respective Hispanic talent, customer, supplier, and community relation strategy so that they can improve their corporate performance. I convene leaders to connect, learn, share, and network around best practices and resources to address those corporate priorities. Yeah, so I started my career in the human resource function, primarily in the talent acquisition space. And there I was exposed to different areas of, employee engagement, recruitment, development, retention. And that's where I found my passion, is really working with people, not only helping them get jobs and career and follow their passion, but also to help the company grow with the right talent that fits the right culture and so forth. And through many different organizations and companies, I totally found myself getting more and more involved with diversity, equity, and inclusion, more focusedly on the Hispanic segment. So really, my community, supporting them, elevating them, and vice versa, and things like that. So that led me to this position with the National Hispanic Corporate Council, where the main focus is diversity, equity, and inclusion, primarily focusing on Hispanic and multicultural segment, and helping companies better understand this respective market so that they can grow.
Congratulations to all of our 2021 Executives of Influence honorees. Hispanic Lifestyle is pleased to present our 2021 Surviving to Thrive business listing. Latino LA.
Abelardo de la Peña Jr. I'm born and raised here in Southern California of immigrant parents from Jalisco, Mexico. And I'm a communicator and an explainer and a motivator and a helper. I've been in communications, either journalism, public relations, advertising, and in this case, digital media for a good 30 plus years. And one of my really dreams from a young teenager on, or very, interest was in newspapers and magazines and wanting to know more about the world, but more about my world as a Latino, as a Mexican American, with virtually no startup costs. It was all self-funded. After a few months, just pooling our own finances. We got a small office in downtown LA, and but the big break we got was receive a a pretty sizable advertising sponsorship for a year with a local ad agency for Lincoln Mercury cars, which brought in a sizable amount of money to allow us to rent out this office and to start moving things forward. Bringing in somebody to help us out in building the website itself, but just to backtrack a bit, the reason why I wanted to first of all start this magazine, because I saw very little Latino byline.
Mr. Tortilla.
Alcazar, I'm COO of Mr. Tortilla. I handle the day-to-day operations and handle our e-commerce growth.
Hey, my name is Anthony Alcazar. I'm the president of Mr. Tortilla. I handle everything that Ronald doesn't, and I'm also one of the co-founders, like me and my brother co-founded Mr. Tortilla in 2012. So Richard, in 2012, when Ronald was graduating from UCLA, I told him, it's everyone's, I think, dream to have a family business. I said, hey, we should start a business together, right? Instead of you going out and working the workforce, let's start a business together. And we decided to start a tortilla company, but we needed someone with a lot of experience in manufacturing and food. And so my father, with over 40 years of experience at the time, was the perfect candidate. So we asked him to come join us and to help us and guide us, and he did.
There's a lot that we learned, and it was very, very important kind of to our development, that time that we spent, where we just weren't making money and that we were struggling. But, a lot of things difficult lessons that we had to learn, we learned during that time, and kind of it prepared us for now. And so I'd always just, I'd suggest that regardless of the struggle that you're in, you kind of be mindful of that like there is something to learn here and you are developing, even if it just seems like it's just so difficult.
Christina's Angels.
Hello, my name is Christina Zepeda, and I am the CEO/owner of Christina's Angels. And we are a staffing company that provides services for medical staffing, janitorial staffing, as well as moving staff. I just want to backtrack a little bit to 2019 to let people know that, I had an instance where I actually was at a meeting and my car got repossessed. That's how bad 2019 was for me. I barely grossed $26,000, I think it was, and my take home was $12,000. So pre-pandemic was already horrible for me. And I was crying. I went off of Facebook for about a year because I was crying. I was depressed. And I was like, how am I going to make it again? So then when the pandemic hit, it was very slow the first quarter. And I just couldn't believe, here I go again, I'm going to have another 2019. But what ended up happening was all those seeds that I had planted over the years started blooming, actually. So during the pandemic, everybody needed janitorial services more than ever. And I ended up researching, got certified with the World Health Organization for COVID cleanings and everything, got the machines, all of that stuff, and started marketing myself. And then everybody was moving because everybody's losing their jobs and, freaking out. And then, medical staff now is in a higher demand than ever. So now even more people need, medical staff. So my business in 2020 grossed over 200,000 compared to 2019. Yes. And I want people to understand, though, I moved back to my parents' house over this past 10 years. I can't even tell you how many times I moved out, then I had to move back. There was a point I didn't even have a bed. And I have pictures that I will post. I didn't have a bed for a year and a half. I donated my bed to somebody. And then when I did have the money to buy my bed again, I said, I don't want to do that until I pay people back that I owe, and until I have enough reserves set aside that my business can continue to go.
Darrow's New Orleans Grill.
Hello, my name is Norwood J. Clark Jr. I'm one of the partners of Darrow's New Orleans Grill in Carson, California. We started back in 1988 manufacturing confections for all the Nordstroms in California, Oak Brook, Illinois, Minneapolis, Neiman Marcus in Beverly Hills, And we also used to bake for Starbucks, and we made products for Gelson's, for Bristol Farms, and for Ralph's. So we are a first generation family business. I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana. My family once cooked for the world-renowned Commander's Palace in the famed Garden District. They trained Paul Prudhomme, they trained M. Lagasse, and I used to work for the Hilton family in New Orleans as well. In a past life, I was an engineer for ABC Television, so I worked in the entertainment business for over 13 years. And I've always had a fascination or fixation to be an entrepreneur. And we looked at several different concepts, and we settled on being in the candy manufacturing business. We morphed from the candy, and we opened our first retail store in Mid-City, Los Angeles, right after the Northridge earthquake, February 4th of 1994, called Uncle Daryl's Cajun Creole Eatery. A lot of the celebrities from Sony Pictures, Culver Studios, Fox Studios, Paramount, all used to come through there. Then we opened our second location in Marina Del Rey, California, and we're in the marina for 16 years. People from all over the world eating there. And then we opened our third concept. Well, we opened a new concept called Daryl's New Orleans Grill. We are the first fast casual Cajun Creole eatery with a full bar. At that particular time, when we opened, not even in New Orleans, they had a concept like that. And what we specialize in, we don't cook with any pork products. Everything is chicken, turkey, or seafood. All of our seafood is farm-raised and grain-fed. And not only that, you don't have to get everything fried, you can also get it grilled. You know, one thing about Louisiana-style cooking, the food tastes good, it'll kill you. So, because we don't believe in moderation. So, and if you look at the landscape of New Orleans in particular, you had the Choctaw Indians, you had the Africans, you had the Portuguese Spaniards, you had the French, you had the Italian, you had the Germans, and the Irish. So all of our DNAs is intertwined in our product. Now, one thing that we call our place, we call Daryl's New Orleans Grill, welcome to Daryl's World, because in Daryl's World, we all are connected. We tell folks that we don't do customers, we do family. You know, and I tell folks that one of the greatest divides that we have in this world is pigmentation and ethnicity. At the end of the day, we're all the same. And so we try to convey that not only through our product, but also through our service by giving you premium service, because you can go anywhere for good food. But to go someplace where people truly love and appreciate you, that's a great honor.
Porto's Bakery and Cafe.
Started back in 1976 by my mother. And then my father later on was just able to afford to pay my salary, told him to quit his job. And my sister Margarita, my brother Raul, and myself, we worked for them while we were going to school. We were going to be doing this for a living. We were supposed to be doctors, lawyers, and that's what immigrants want their kids to do. They want them to work less hard at physical jobs, and they want them to get an education. So we all got an education. I have a master's from UCLA, my brother from a business degree, my sister an accounting degree. But the thing that happened was that all the while we were going to school, we were also working with our parents. So without meaning to, we kind of fell in love with the business. And by the time we finished school and we wanted to start looking for jobs, we looked at each other and we say, I mean, this is a gold mine here. The two immigrants are folding up with our help. Just let's concentrate. We got something great going on. We fell in love. We had a passion for the business, and that when we graduated is when we decided to come on board full time. And that's when the plan started to go from a mom and pop to something bigger, to an expansion, not only real estate wise, but also the venue itself. Starting with 5 things, then going to 10, and then developing to 20, trying to accommodate, now that we were on Brand Boulevard, all those people that were working in the building across from us. So it was like a demand and supply. There was a demand, and we were smart enough to jump on that and start developing, making the Cuban sandwiches and all the other stuff that came later. We started one step at a time, one sandwich at a time, regular coffee versus espresso and all the stuff that we do now. And we have a full coffee bar. We sell tons of coffee, and we're very proud of our coffee. But at the beginning, it was just one step at a time, baby steps.
Congratulations to all of our 2021 Surviving to Thrive business honorees. Thank you for spending time with us this afternoon. We hope the information we shared with you has been of value. Congratulations once again to our 2021 honorees. I am sure they will all continue to inspire us all. Our next major online event will be the 6th Annual Women Business and Wellness Conference, scheduled for November 2021, so stay tuned for details. Thank you again to our sponsors, Wells Fargo Bank, California Energy Upgrade, Bank of America, Riverside County Economic Development Department, SoCal Gas Company, and San Bernardino County EDA. Because your support helps us promote positive images of our community. Take care, my friends, and I look forward to seeing you soon.